That's fine.
Well, welcome everybody to the Hangover Kiko Frozen Genetics sale catalog live stream preview. We've got a great sale lined up. The Brovember that just happened back in November was a great sale. It turned out really well. Looking forward to seeing these genetics being used down the road. A little bit about the sale. It starts January the 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll go into extended bidding on the 3rd at 6 p.m. Typical top livestock online sale. If you're the winning bidder after sale, you'll get a email with your invoice in there. You can contact Paige if you need to arrange for payment. If you have your card on file, you can just go ahead and pay if that's what you prefer. With that said, let's like to acknowledge some of our sponsors for this catalog review. We have Jesse Farms, Kenneth and Connie Jesse, McTavish Farmstead, James and Rita Thompson, Kimmer Auctioneers. You need a live auctioneer. Kimmer's one of the best in the business to sell your livestock. He does a great job for everybody. The Goat Rancher. If you don't get it, you should. Crafty Goat, Jess and Michael Bruss. If you need anything as far as t-shirts, banners, or any kind of marketing material, they do a great job. Glad to have them with us. And then Lost Creek Wholesale. That's Leon up in Pennsylvania. You can do a Google on Lost Creek Wholesale. They are universal feeders that lick saliva feeder and then ram equipment. They do a lot of sheep things. Leon also does a really great podcast for profitability on sheep and goats, and he has one episode that I've listened to that where Tyler Glasson Kikos actually did a interview with Leon, and it was really real insightful to hear how Tyler got into the Kikos and how he's raising his stock. So that's who's helped us get this going. So we'll go around the room here real quick to introduce the catalog review group. We have Kendall Barnes with Chi-View Kikos up in Kentucky. We have Mr. Cooper Sherrill out in Oklahoma with Cowboy Kikos. And then we have Mr. Joseph Netter from Whistling Dixie Kikos. Glad to have him here. We tried once before, but looks like we have all the technical difficulties worked out and looking for a great review. Standard format, I'll put the lot up, talk just a little bit about it, and then we'll go around the room and get input from everybody. So let me do one more housekeeping bit because I will be monitoring the comments. So if you want to comment and let us know you're there, that would be great. And it'll take me a couple lots to get my rhythm going here. So there we go. Hope everybody had a good Christmas and looking forward to the holidays, the new year, getting some time off. Been great. So let me get over here. Browser, there we go. So lot one. Lot one is let me exit here. Lot one is embryos, brought to you by Whispering Oak Kikos. This is JKC Hammer's Keeper over WOK Onyx's Cali. It's a flush that they did, offering up embryos here. Obviously, it worked great for Denny. He placed these embryos in 4 different does this year and looking forward to the results. This is 1 straw, 2 embryos stored at SEK Genetics. Cooper, you like to comment on this?
Yep. When you look at the top side, it's hammer over keeper. But what is pretty neat to me is you got CPK Hoss in there, which is going to give you some Golden Boy stuff in there. I assume I see CPK, but keeper and Golden Boy stuff that is pretty interesting to me. The picture of the doe that's on this lot, I'm assuming that is the Onyx Cali doe, and regardless of if that's her or if that is a product of these embryos, that's a pretty nice looking goat. So either way, and the Hammer's keeper buck looks nice too. So pretty good opportunity in my mind.
Yeah, I got to see him when he sold down there. He was a good looking buck. Joseph?
I saw the Hammers keeper buck several times. I think the first time he was probably 6 months old. He was pretty impressive. Young buck even then. Carried quite a bit of flesh on him. I know that Philip thought he was something special. He was told me back then that he was planning on using him to be the what he was going forward with in his herd. So at that age, if he was planning that, he had to be something special. I did see his dam also and her sister, 2 peas in a pod does, long, heavy bodied does, carried a lot of flesh. I liked them quite a bit. I know that Constance doe, she lived till she was 10 or 11 years old. So you got longevity there. And I think it's probably a pretty good cross with pretty fleshy genetics up top and then some framier stuff on the bottom.
Agree. Kendall?
I don't know what I can add, but very solid looking buck. Doe looks really good. So it's a rare genetic cross, I think, that you don't see much of. So it'll be interesting what they actually do.
I noticed one thing just looking at it, I didn't notice before, but on the bottom side you have GHK Z08. I saw her when she was probably 8 or 9 years old, and she had a perfect bag. She's out of the dam of Cherokee Fiddler, and I had a daughter, a Z08, till she was 8 or 9 years old, and she went to a buddy of mine who buys my commercial goats at that age, but she produced kids for me for a lot of years, and I didn't have any issues with her as far as parasite resistance or anything like that. And a good mother, so that's just a little tidbit there.
Okay. Lot 2. Lot 2 is going to be an interesting one. This is 1 straw stored at Bonanza by MR Goats. This is Goliath's imprint. Best picture we could get or find on the internet of him. It's a little grainy, but everybody knows this is Keeper's brother. It's Gotex Goliath over Gesture, Sesame Doe. Hasn't been offered in quite some time, so this will definitely be one to watch. I do have an imprint daughter here that has been really productive, done a great hands-off job of raising babies. Look forward to her kidding this year. Got some AI stuff in her. So, Kendall, you want to start this one?
Yeah, like I said, this is full same genetic cross as Keeper. I know the Hancocks used this buck back in the day, and they had really good results out of him. He's big bone, solid looking buck, deep bodied, good chest on him. It's kind of what I look for in a Kiko's. I want him wide in the front and wide in the back. I mean, you can't really see his back end in this picture, but a lot of the does I've seen out of him, I don't think he fell off in the back end because all the daughters I've seen been pretty thick in the back end on him too. So yeah, interesting get. Whoever gets to buy it, and I think it will be. If you make the right cross, I think it will help you.
Joseph?
I don't think I can really add much to that other than the fact that of the raw stuff that I've seen, it seems to be a little bit bigger than the keeper stuff I've seen. So you maybe get a little bit of the extra growth from Goliath through Boss. But Kendall pretty much covered everything that I would want to say about him.
All righty. Cooper?
Yep. Imprint's got a son that I'm pretty familiar with, which is Boss's Sport. Um, Joe Benson had him for a long time, and I saw a lot of does that went all across the country out of Boss's Sport. All kind of cookie cutter type animals, real thick from front to back and from top to bottom. I really like that Boss's Sport buck, which is the son of this buck we're talking about. I think this is a heck of an opportunity. And like Kendall said, you put that in the right doe, look out. You might be changing the game.
For sure. That's the doe I was referring to. The Imprint daughter is the sister to the Joe Benson buck, and she has done really well for me. So a great chance here for you to put that in a special doe. So lot three is got Spartacus. Spartacus is out of Big Kahuna and an MCR Electra, which is a high voltage doe. This is 2 straws of got Spartacus that are stored in the personal tank of Mr. Cooper Sherrill. Let Cooper go ahead and start talking about this buck.
Yeah, so I bought Spartacus from JD and Jenny at Hubbard Hill Kiko's. He is a tough rascal. He got a really nasty gut infection right after I got him, and I figured he was going to die, but he never did. He was the only buck I had at the time that could cover most of my does, so I was kind of like, well, am I going to breed him like I bought him for, or am I going to put him up and try to get him over this infection? You don't make any money if you don't have any kids, so I threw him out in the pasture anyway, expecting him to cover the does and die, but he didn't. Everybody knows about the Big Kahuna buck. That's Hammer over June 2, extremely well known in the industry. The Electra doe that Spartacus is out of is a really long-lived doe for JD. She just finished up working for him. I think she was 11. Still had a great bag, still raising really good kids. JD's told me that she's going to go down in history as one of his foundation does. Spartacus makes really nice doe kids for me. I have kept a buck kid back out of him and sold him. I wanted to keep him, but Kylie wasn't going to let me get rid of Spartacus, so I didn't need to keep a son if I still had daddy. Really feminine heads, those deep bodied, and I've got several years out of production on that first round of daughters I had out of Spartacus, and those, which looking at the genetics, you would expect so. I've had several pieces of semen, both lap AI and transcervical. So it's good stuff, and they like the kids they got out of him. I'm hoping somebody buy this and use it because I would like to get him spread around the country. It's the only way you really get one well known is if you get him out there. So here's your chance.
For sure. Kendall?
I'm just looking at the picture of him standing there facing you. He's got good bone and good chest, and he definitely looks like he could breed a bunch of does with all that perfume he's got on. I mean, like Cooper's going to know more than any of us on this buck, but if you look at his pedigree, it's stacked with the good, money maker generator across the bottom and Pango on Hammer on top. So should be a good one, in my opinion.
Joseph?
No, I think they pretty much covered it really well, but you've got maternals top and bottom with June over that Electra doe. Like Cooper said, that doe was 11 years old. I saw her again this last year when I was at JD's house, and like you said, 11 years old with a perfect bag. And when you get that kind of productivity, that's what makes you the money. Saw Spartacus when I was at Cooper's house, and Cooper's buck pen isn't the most luxurious establishment. It's a little rough, but Spartacus was in great flesh, and he was doing very well on no feed in that environment. And like Cooper said, his daughter's cookie cutter across the board. I really like him. Carry a good bit of flesh, good bit of body to him with a feminine type that I like. So I really like this buck. It's probably one of the lots in this sale that I would bid on myself.
Great. And if you want to look online there, Cooper talked about the motility. It's 75%, and normal morphology being 80%. So good chance here for you. Some good straws. Moving on to lot 4. Lot 4 is consigned by Southwest Creek Farm. These two straws are stored at Bonanza. This is Webb Hammer Ginger 867. Have a great ride up here on He Is the Sire of SHR Freightliner, which was the top 80G buck in eastern Oklahoma in 2022, and he followed that up with a top 80G buck coming off West Virginia in 2023, named SWC Calais. And a few of these straws sold, not many. Well-known buck. Can you start us off?
Yeah, that it's a well tested top and bottom. I know Weber tested some Shogun bucks in Maryland, and they in 2013, and they did really good on pasture on average daily gain. So that seems to continue with this buck and this buck's offspring. The average daily gain is extremely strong in this pedigree. I mean, it's a buck that's come from tested lines and already produced test winners for the owners. So should it, like just like the other imprint, if you pick the right doe, this buck can move you leaps and bounds ahead in your breeding program.
Joe?
Just top and bottom, I was looking at it. You've got double dose of Hammer there. Hammer himself, he's already pretty well line bred, but double it up is pretty much how you increase consistency on everything. And I think that's what you'll get out of this cross. That Ginger doe is one of the most productive does in the industry as far as performance tested progeny. She's the dam of Dominator, the number 1 buck in Maryland, and Riptide, the number 2 buck in Maryland. So you got proven performance all the way through this. This buck is going to throw quite a bit of growth. Everything that I've seen out of him has had quite a bit of growth to him. That AFK Dumbo doe, I saw a picture of her when she was at John's house, and she was an absolute tank of a doe, just front to back, super wide all the way through, ton of body to her, a lot of muscle and bone. So that's the kind of type you'll get out of it.
Okay. Cooper, anything?
Yeah, I got a little first-hand experience with this buck. I was the one that hauled him back from the cream of the crop back to Oklahoma. Really nice looking buck. But what's even better are the kids that he puts on the ground. The Freightliner buck that Curtis is using, he keeps producing good kids for them. The West Virginia, the Colossus buck for the Marks family, really nice. And like Kendall and Joseph said, I mean, it's just performance tested genetics, top and bottom, and out and out. Um, really hard to beat if that's what you're chasing. Um, really good opportunity.
For sure. And at Web Changer, I've had Adele out, her Web Gabrielle, and she's got stuff here still on the farm. Lot 5. Moving on to Lot 5. Lot 5 is one straw consigned by Impact Kikos. That straw is stored at Bull Nanza. This is Mr. Gotex generator. Cooper, why don't you go ahead and start us on this one?
I mean, Generator is one of the, most well-known names in the breed. It's old school, line bred Sting genetics. You're going to get some frame out of it for sure. And if you got the moneymaker daughter at home, well, you might as well just use this on her because that's what everybody's been doing for years and years and years. Generator over moneymaker. I don't think there's any moneymaker daughters in anybody's pasture, but you get what I'm saying. This is old school, proven stuff, highly sought after. I expect it to bring a good coin.
And they're getting limited. Kendall?
Yeah, this is, my favorite bloodlines goes back to Generator. Like you said, it's old school, a lot of frame. I've seen a lot of Generator does over the years, and I got one in my herd myself, and they're really good mothers. A lot of, you gotta find something to put over them that's going to add to the muscle, because a lot of times they'll have a lot of frame. So you just gotta have a plan when you go to use it.
Joseph?
I think Generator is pretty much the granddaddy of them all when it comes to performance test bucks. Back in the day, you wouldn't have Lighten, Titan, Hammer, any of that stuff without Generator, and Generator seems to work really well line bred. You wouldn't have Hammer without that. So if you're looking for performance, he's been a producer all the way through. Kendall's Generator doe has produced 2 top 10 bucks, including the number 2 buck, right, Kendall? Or is it number 1?
He's number 2, got beat by his uncle.
There you go.
But
that's hard to beat.
Got number 9 this year out of her. And they was out 2 different bucks, so that's one good thing about the Generator. It seems to work over a lot of different genetic crosses too.
Deal. You have great opportunity here. And again, it's just one straw. Going to be harder and harder to come by. Moving on to Lot 6. Lot 6 is 2 straws. BWP Tufts Royal Blend. Royal Blend is a copyright Tuff by Keeper's 365 Girl, which was, I think, one of Wes's most well-known and high-producing does that he had. Highly sought after for kids out of 365 Girl. So, Joe, why don't you go ahead and talk about this?
Well, this is one of my lots in here. Just this buck in particular, I tried for about 5 different years to get him collected and put in my tank because I liked him so much. And I finally got it done this year, and this is the first time I've let any semen go off of it. I saw him when he was a kid. I saw him again when he was a yearling. He was always a standout at Wes's place, and then he went to Mike's place, and like I put in the write-up there, he ran out on range with 40 other bucks, and he wasn't getting pampered. He's still out there breeding does, 8 or 9 years old, I can't remember, but structurally sound all the way through still. I've got 5 of his does in my herd right now. Perfect bag on all of them. Phenotypically about as cookie cutter as you could get. Stuff over 365. On performance wise, it's that's hard to beat right there. His full brother, Tough 365 Traveler, he was the number 3 Pickle Buck in Oklahoma. 914 was his sister. She produced a top 10 in West Virginia. 814 has produced 2 top 10 bucks in West Virginia, including a number 5 overall. Stone Cold, Tough Stone Cold, he produced a top 10 in Maryland. It's just consistent year in, year out. These genetics are putting bucks at the top of every test they're in. And I think performance wise, the stats are there, but what a lot of people don't see is the maternal side of this. And I've seen every one of Keeper 365 of her kids, and she produced this. She's 11 years old, had a perfect bag still. Her kids are cookie cutter no matter what buck she was with. It was just hard to beat. And her daughter's the same way. I've got one of her daughters in my herd, and me and JD flushed her this year. I really believe in this stuff, obviously, so I don't think you can go wrong with it.
Sounds good. Cooper?
Yeah, it's hard to add anything that Joseph didn't throw in there, but one thing I will add is, I mean, performance tested out the wazoo. But to me, when you throw in the toughness of the buck himself and of his offspring, if something makes it a while and proves itself out at Mike Hogan's place, then it's probably going to be just fine at your place too. Um, these 2 straws of semen are definitely on my short list of something to bid on in this sale. Mainly because of the 365 doe, and the toughness of this buck and the offspring out of him that I've heard about and seen in person. Really cool opportunity. I'm really glad that Joseph was finally able to get him collected.
Kendall, anything?
Well, if you know Joseph, he's pretty hands off with his herd, and when he's really high on this 365 though. I know he's had probably 2 or 3 different herd sires out of that doe, and he's got a daughter. He said it makes someone like me kind of catches my attention if they're that successful that he's wanting to line breed it in his herd, and I'm line breeding different doe line that I think's just as good. That would be something that you should bring in and stack your maternal genetics in your herds. That's what we're breeding, the maternal breed. So I believe it'll be I trust Joseph, and he's chased this bloodline for several years now and used it. And I've been to his place and seen his doe herd and how he manages it. And I think it'll be excellent for any herd to get it mixed in.
For sure. Yeah, I took a chance
Like
on.
Kendall said, I used 3 of his brothers out of different bucks. His Old Kansas, which is the same cross as him, and I got several top 10 bucks, well, top 15 bucks the year I used him and tested his offspring at West Virginia and Mississippi. And then I used Pepe's Maverick, who is Pepe over 365, and I got several top 10 and 15 bucks and top 5 bucks out of him when I used him. And then I've got his brother Snowman, who's out of Ace 190 and 365, and I used him to pretty good bit this last year. Like he said, I don't pamper my stuff, and if I like it enough to keep it around, it must be working. I think I've got 3 does left in my herd that don't go back to Keepers 365 at least once, so it pretty much makes up my herd.
It's the first offering of him, Joe.
Yes, sir. It is.
with him trying 5 times, I wouldn't let this opportunity pass. So, final word there. Lot 7. Moving on to Lot 7. Lot 7 is consigned by 2C Kikos. This is 2 straws of PMC Blackbrush. Blackbrush is out of HKF Special Dark, which is a King James son over a Boaz daughter. And the bottom side is SLS Titan over a Thriller doe. Kendall, can you add anything on this doe? Buck, I'm sorry.
This is the first time I've seen this buck. Of course, it's the first time I've seen the semen offered, but I mean that the top side, there's a lot of, there's line bred Boaz, so that's been a buck that Curtis built his herd out of, was Boaz daughters. I mean, it's extremely line bred Boaz. It's 3 times in the top side. I want to say, isn't that King James bucks the one that Jimmy Carroll still owns down in Florida?
I think so.
And he's like 12 years old and still breeding does. I mean, and then, the bottom side, you got the shorts breeding. And I've seen a lot of the short stuff over the years. And it's always been pretty nice, well-built stock. So this buck looks like he's packing the meat. Good rear end, good chest, deep body. Be interesting to see how he does up in a different herd over some different stuff.
Cooper?
Yeah, I talked to Rachel about this buck when I saw that he was in this sale. She had talked to me about him before, but seeing these pictures really piqued my interest. And she said that for quite a while, he was just being used on commercial does and on purebred does. And she gets a couple years down the line, she starts looking at her kids, and a lot of her top kids. She goes back and finds out who mama is, and a lot of them are daughters of this buck. If I'm not mistaken, one of her high placing bucks in West Virginia is out of a daughter of this guy. All that Boaz on top is going to make an animal that looks like this one. Real squared off, short to the ground, really thick. After talking to Rachel and looking at these pictures, I hollered at her and say, "Hey, I want to buy some of these straws. So you don't have to worry about me bidding on these because I already bought some." So that tells you what I think of the buck. I've already bought some of these straws. So I think this can be a really good opportunity, and he's going to be a really easy outcross for a lot of herds, I would imagine. So,
yep. Joe?
Yeah, I saw Boaz and his brother pretty much phenotypically identical to the buck in the pictures here. Really solid square bucks, and I think it came through in him. On the bottom side, you have GHK Sweet Sophia, which is the grand dam of SLS Fort, who's done so well for Will Chapman on all the different performance tests. I mean, a lot of top 10 and 15 bucks out of him, top 5 even. That SLS Titan buck, I talked to Dewey about him years ago, and he said he doesn't really have the pedigree flash, but in person that buck was just a tank, and that's why he liked him, and that's why he used him. And I think pretty much similar build on top. If you go down to that Titan buck, that's how you get consistency, and if that's the way Rachel said he's producing, I can see why. If you just stack that type all the way through, that's what you should get.
Okay, I think I failed to mention, I'm going to make sure I do. The storage locations are 2, Bonanza and Bosque Valley Repro. So you have 2 options there of getting your straws if you win these. Moving on to Lot 8. Lot 8 is consigned by Denard Farm. This is 2 straws of Sig X Augusta stored at Bonanza. He's out of Frankie. MJI Frankie, which is MGR Titans RC son over Rake Austin boy daughter. So unique offering here. Cooper, you might be a little more familiar with this.
This is a buck that I really like. I really do. I missed an opportunity by a little bit to buy this buck earlier this year. My buddy Andrew up in Iowa snatched him up before I could. A lot of performance tested stuff out of Augustus. I really like. I don't know a lot about Frankie himself, Augustus's dad, but I like everything I know about the Titans RC buck. You look on his bottom side, that's what really grabs me about Augustus is that, excuse me, the Austin's boy blood mixed in with the Dale stuff, and you got Aristocrat down there as well. Extremely good parasite resistance that he showed both in Oklahoma and Kansas. And when Troy used him with TNT Farms. I think this is a buck. If you want to add dimension to your doe herd with a little extra parasite resistance, this is dang sure one I would look at. Like I said, Augustus is a buck I think a whole lot of. I was awfully close to getting him bought, just wasn't quite quick enough.
Joe?
I think that Frankie buck, Cooper said he doesn't really know much about him, but I think you could add that buck's got quite a bit of growth and frame to him, and that comes through the RC. I've seen a lot of RC does at Gene's house, and they were pretty big does, but there wasn't nothing wrong with them at all. They were built right how they should been, and there's been a lot of RC does that produce some pretty nice bucks across the country that I've seen. I've seen several Frankie daughters, and they look really good. Been productive does, pretty heavy milking does, and I think that comes through the AVG Bonnie doe. Like we said at Jean's house, I saw several of her favorite does, and they go back to that Bonnie doe. And if Jean wasn't nothing, she was particular about her doe herd. And if that stuff was her best stuff, that stands to reason that it must be pretty good. The Sig Gypsy doe, Augustus's dam, I saw her for several years when she was at Colton Pritchett's house. And she made cookie cutter kids for year after year. Didn't really matter what buck she was with. I think I saw Augustus a couple times, and I see a lot of his dam in him. Very, very similar in type, squared off, proportional, correct sound, structurally sound all the way through. The Austin boy stuff has worked really well on the bottom side of a lot of performance tested stuff. PJ said that Austin boy was a buck he wished he would have kept around and used a lot more, because he didn't really realize how good the daughters were until he had sold them all, and the buck wasn't around anymore. So I told Cooper before the sale that this was one of the bucks on my short list as far as bucks that I would bid on. And if my semen sells, I am going to bid on this buck.
Kendall, did I hit you already or no?
No, I got to see that Austin boy buck when he was probably a yearling or a little bit less. Probably he sold at the AKGA sale out in, I want to say, Fort Scott. He was a very impressive. I guess he more or less he was a buckling then. Very impressive. A TNT Dutch buck I saw at Ron Polite's. He's a very parasite resistant Loverboy son, which, Loverboy's not known for his resistance, but that buck was pretty resistant. And I'm pretty sure I seen that Bonnie doe whenever Gene bought him at an AKGA sale, bought her at the AKGA sale. But Augustus is pretty well known buck, and in the tested the industry side of it, and he was very square deep. I believe you'll get, like Joseph was saying, he's built like his mama, so you'll get that consistent build out of him. I'm sure.
Okay. Lot 9. Lot 9 is one straw of LRF W304 Super Sport. This is consigned by BlackRock Kikos. This one straw is stored at SEK Genetics. 304 Super Sport is a Southwest Sportsman's son over 5C Chanel. Great opportunity here. Kendall, you want to start off?
Yeah, he's becoming. I'm sure the semen's getting fewer and fewer. It's because it's been sold a little bit here in the last bit. Um, he's half brother to Sports Cat. His mother Chantilly. I remember when I first got in Kiko's. The people who owned her had her up on her website, and she had a big old chest on her. This is one of those bucks back in the day when Duff Sandus owned him. He did really well with offspring out of him, and pretty well known buck.
Cooper?
Yeah, I'll throw in there. I talked to Wes about Super Sport maybe last year, maybe the year before, but he told me that Super Sport was one of the just thickest, full bodied, and most muscular bucks that he'd ever been around. And Wes has sure been around a lot of good ones. Um, the muscling that Wes has told me about, and that he passed it on to his kids so well, is what makes me want to aim this direction as far as maybe a potential uh, future herd sire for me. So I think a lot of the buck, and like Kendall said, he's a half brother to Sports Cat, and we all know about the muscling Sports Cat genetics had, so it shouldn't be Super Sport was that way as well. Um, like Kendall said, there's not a lot of this left out there because it has been getting divvied out here recently. So if you're wanting in on this, you better take the opportunity while it's in front of you.
For sure. Joe?
Yeah, they pretty much covered everything that I'd want to say about it. Wes thought quite a bit about him. I never did see Super Sport, but Wes and Duff were pretty good friends. Duff was right up the road from Wes for a lot of years, and he said that you could pick out the Super Sport kids anytime you saw them. They were cookie cutter and they stood out. You could tell they were a Super Sport kid because of all the muscling they had on them. And whenever he ended up using them, he said that when they got to about a certain age, you just went out there and it was, my God, they're all the same. They're pretty impressive. And I saw Wes got several bucks out of this cross, and I saw them, and really, really nice bucks carried a lot of flesh on them. So if that's what you're into, I think that's what you'll get out of him. And like Cooper and Kendall said, he's getting harder and harder to get a hold of, so you might as well act on it today.
Okay, Lot 10. Lot 10 is two straws of GHK Cherokee Fiddler consigned by Sinway Farms. These two straws are stored at Triple W Genetics, who took over B&D. Had some offerings in the past sales of Fiddler. He's always one that's sought after. Loverboy son over Waco 139 daughter. You can tell by the picture. He's got the frame. He's got the build. Cooper?
Yep, one of my favorites in the industry. I've been around a lot of daughters and girls and so on and so forth. But this buck, um, every time I talk about him, I always say that he didn't belong in the shadow of Iron Horse. But for a long, long time, that's where he was. But me and a whole lot of other people truly believe that he was the better buck there at Goat Hill Kiko's. And just about every time this semen sells, it creeps up a little more in price. And I don't see why this time wouldn't be any different. So I don't need to beat the dead horse on him any more than that. This is good stuff, extremely good on the maternal side, but you're also going to get a lot of growth out of it too. So,
Joe?
When I went to the Sparks several years back, I saw a pen full of buck kids out of Cherokee Fiddler, and they were very fleshy bucks, heavy bone to them. They stood out. They definitely weren't a second to any Iron Horse bucks that were there. I would prefer them in my opinion. Like Cooper said, there's a lot of maternal power down there. P21, we talked about her a little bit earlier. She's the same cross as the dam of Sky Blue Copyright. Those lightning does have produced some whoppers out there, and he's one of the bucks that doesn't really need an introduction. Everybody knows who he is. But if you need a reason to buy him, we've given you plenty already.
Kendall, got anything to add?
Not much to add. It's hard to get those lightning genetics, and it's up close on the bottom. Definitely hard to get the Lover Boy too.
Yeah. Okay, lot 11. Lot 11 is signed by Danny Vaughn. This is 2 straws of GHK True Blue, and they are stored at Bonanza. True Blue is Blue Sun over ABG's Ozark Bumpkin Doe. Kendall, do you know that Bumpkin Doe?
Yep.
Tell me about her.
I had the same genetic cross, just I think maybe a year younger, or year older one. My buck was named Painted Wagon, but that bumpkin doe was a real good doe. For Ron, he used her for a few years and then sold them to the Sparkses. But what makes that bumpkin doe extraordinary, in my opinion, was that GFK or JFK Maggie. That doe was flushed. I don't know how many times Ron flushed her, but she was an exceptional doe, very feminine, long-bodied doe, and I mean, you can't go wrong with the Blue Sun, and then you got that little bit of Goliath in there too. So stacked pedigree. I haven't seen a whole lot of kids out of this buck, but like I said, I owned a full genetic cross brother to him, and the ones I had here born out of Painted Wagon were faster growing. So I think this would be a pretty good buck myself.
Okay, Joe?
Like Kendall said, same cross as Painted Wagon, but it's also the same cross as a doe that Pat Lahr has done really well with, E43. I saw that doe a couple times when I was at Pat's house, and like Kendall said about Maggie, she was a really long, feminine doe. Had a good type to her, perfect bag. And I know Pat said when she first got her from Craig, she was kind of disappointed in her. Didn't really look like all that much, but when she got her in production, she really took off and ended up being one of her best does. So if you're just judging off pictures in your catalog shopping, I wouldn't do that on this buck, because pictures might not look like he's the greatest buck, but you might get some phenomenal females out of him.
Awesome. Cooper?
I don't have much to add other than on the Painted Wagon side of things. Everything that I have had that went back to Painted Wagon were really good does. So I don't know why it'd be any different here.
Next lot is lot 12, consigned by Hubbard Hills Kiko. This is one straw of ECR Rusty. That straw is stored at Bonanza. Rusty is a Southwest Cisco son over JTV Nina, which is a Klondike daughter, and got Confederate rounding out the bottom there. Joe, you want to start this one?
Rusty's, if you've been in long enough, you know who Rusty is, and he doesn't need an introduction really. I know that Nina doe was one of Terry's foundation does. He really liked her. Southwest Cisco goes back to Terminator, and then Klondike goes back to Aristocrat. Aristocrat over Terminator is what's on the bottom side of some of my better does in my herd, and I always like that cross pretty well. So I think it's Rusty. What else can you say about it?
Yep. Cooper?
Yeah, you're going to get good parasite resistance out of this. Most likely you're going to get some frame if you're wanting to upsize your goats a little bit as well. And that red color, I'm a white goat kind of guy, but the solid red one's sure pretty to look at as well.
Kendall?
Well, this is Terry's main herd sire for a long time. It's been a while since I've seen it sold. I know one time it was one of the highest selling straws out there. And it's been several years since I've seen it sold. But kind of along the same lines with the imprint, if you pick the right doe to put this buck over, it's gonna do you some good as far as getting attention. Cisco buck. How many Terminator sons were out there in the beginning? 3, something like that. This is one of the 3 bucks that went back to Terminator. Joseph, you remember?
Yeah, I think
Cisco
you're right.
and Terminator 2, and might have been who was the other
B108.
buck. But anyway, there's
B108.
Yeah, still goes back to Terminator 2. There's not too many
Yeah,
ways to get Terminator anymore. It's hard to get. So,
no,
be
I think
interested to see what this
John
one brings.
Smith and Craig Adams both use that buck, and neither one of them pampered their goats at all. So if they were living at them guys' place, it had to be pretty tough. So Terry Hankins the same. Rusty worked at all 3 of them places, and they had to be tough to live there. So should get some toughness, if anything.
I think last live sale I saw was back several years ago to Heritage, and I think two of them brought 8,300 or something like that. So,
It's been a while since it's sold.
Yep, it has been. Lot 13, B-Bar W Kikos. This is 6 straws. 6 straws of BWP Blue Sun Smoky stored at SCK. It's a Blue Sun over BWP Speckles Buttercup, which is a Mr. Speckles over a Bessie Doe. Joe, you want to start us off?
I think Blue Sun is probably a few years back. I looked at it. Blue Sun had the most registered sons of any Kiko buck in the world or in the industry. I don't know if that's still the case, but either way, there's a lot of Blue Sun bucks out there, and I've seen a lot of Blue Sun bucks, and I kind of keep them in my mind as kind of a tiered system. And Smokey, in my mind, is a tier 1 Blue Sun buck. He was a cross of Blue Sun over Mr. Speckles, and both of those are some of the best maternal lines in the breed, as well as some of the best performance lines in the breed. Mr. Speckles dominated test whenever he was out there, and then pretty much all of your modern tested genetics go back to Blue Sun. And a lot of people overlook on the bottom side down there also is that S77 buck. He was at Mike Hogan's place, and I think Duff Sandness used him a couple times. and Don and Sue Webb. But he put a lot of kids out there, and they were tough does. PJ got a few of them. He said they were some of the best maternal does he ever had. So I think Smokey's probably one of your better maternal bucks. If you're looking to grow a doe base off of a buck, you can do it with this package because you got 6 straws here. Put them in some good does and make some excellent females. I've got several Smoky does in my herd and perfect bags, structurally sound, parasite resistance, great mothers. Um, Buttercup is a full sister of Julie and Jenny, who were both also flush does for Wes. So if he's flushing all 3 of those sisters, he must have seen something pretty good in them. And I saw those does, and I know why he flushed them. And they were some phenomenal goats. Smokey sired a top 10 West Virginia buck, and that was the only time he was ever tested was that year. So I think this is some pretty good semen here.
Yep. Cooper?
Yep. I think quite a bit about the Smoky Buck. I guess the best accolade I could give to him as far as personal experience is that I'm using a son of his to build a doe herd with. And we'll talk about him later. But like Joe said, the Buttercup and the Julie and the Jenny doe are excellent. I saw Julie in person, and still to this day, I think she's the nicest Kiko doe I've ever laid my own eyes on as far as build. And then you can add in what she's put on the ground and put across the scale. That cross that Mr. Speckles over the Bessie doe was really solid, just adding to the other great traits you're going to get out of Blue Sun. But like I said, I'm using a son of Smoky to build a doe herd myself, so that's pretty good accolade as I can give a buck.
Agree. Kendall?
I don't know much that I can add. They covered everything pretty well, I think. Solid book.
All right. Moving on to lot 14. Lot 14 is one straw consigned by Impact Kikos. This is Sky W018 Warsaw. Warsaw is a Blue Sun son over a Craig Adams Y20, Y30, sorry, which is a Nick daughter. These straws again are one straw stored at Bonanza. Kendall.
Yeah, he was tested in Oklahoma back in the day by Sky. Showed real strong parasite resistance. Got a lot of Nick blood in this buck and some Aristocrat. That doe, the Theory doe, she was a long-lived doe. I think she's died at Nancy's. But I've seen a few offspring out of this buck over the years, and at least most of them's pretty that I've seen been pretty nice animal.
Cooper.
Parasite resistance and mothering ability. What you're going to get here. That's what we raise Kikos for. So that's all I need to say.
Agree. Joe.
They pretty much covered it. Hit the nail on the head. We just talked about Blue Sun bucks, and this is one of the earliest ones. Like Kendall said, I think he was a #1 fecal buck in Oklahoma. Sired Sonny Boy, who sired Outlaw and Thriller, and got the performance test credentials of those bucks. And it all goes back to Warsaw. I've seen several animals out of Warsaw, and the picture there is pretty much what you get. They all look about the same. So if, like Cooper said, you're looking for parasite resistance and mothering ability, here's your chance.
Okay, lot 15. Lot 15 is EAV Rebel Outlaw, consigned by Sterling V Ranch. This is 2 straws. They're willing to share shipping to SEK, but they have 2 straws stored at Bonanza. Amy did a great write up here online for Top Livestock if you want to read it. But there's 2 straws at Bonanza, and they're willing to share shipping to SEK. EAV Rebel Outlaw, which is a TBR Uno son over a Sundance Ken daughter. Cooper?
Yep. I'll just throw this out there for Amy. I've told her in person, or I guess over message, but I really appreciate the time she takes to write this stuff out. A lot of people just throw it out there and say, here you go. But she really will give you the information that you can't just get from a pedigree. So kudos to Amy for writing that kind of stuff out. It helps us when we're doing the catalogs, and it helps whoever's looking to buy. Okay, back to the buck. He's out of Uno. We talked about Uno extensively in the last sale. He's a buck that I really like. I've seen this buck in person. I'm probably the one that collected this semen when I was doing that for Bonanza. I like him a lot. I really like his feet structure. When I think about a buck, I like to start at the ground and go up. If they can't, then they're no good to me. Extremely heavy muscled, and the offspring I've seen out of him have been the same way. And wonderful parasite resistance. You got the Sundance Kid and the Outlaw over A59. They're on the bottom side, which just adds to the performance test stuff that you get out of Uno. Really nice overall buck, top to bottom. I've seen a lot of kids out of him, and they're my kind of goat.
Joe?
If you were stacking performance pedigree, you probably couldn't do much better. You got #1 fecal in Maryland down to the #1 ADG in Oklahoma, and then that same cross outlaw A59 produced several #1s in Oklahoma. So I mean, you got some dominant genetics there. I remember when the Simmons were using Sundance Kid pretty good. I saw several does and bucks out of that buck, and I always liked them pretty well. But you can't beat the first-hand experience that Cooper just gave. So we can sit here and talk about it, but then just go down and read what Amy put on there. You got first-hand experience and knowledge. She wasn't making it up. Cooper's backing her up. So
Kendall?
Yeah, this is my kind of buck. I like the way he's built. I like that he's backed his pedigree up with performance. And I don't know what else I could add that these guys haven't already mentioned and what Amy's already put on there, but he's a very impressive buck in my opinion.
Good. Lot 16, consigned by Whistling Dixie Kikos. This is 2 straws of TNT Y409, stored at Triple W Genetics. I'm going to let Joe roll on this one.
this is one of my lots. I saw his kids for several years at Jim and Angie's before I went and bought this buck. But they were about as nice as you could make them. Super consistent kids from Jim and Angie. Jim said they didn't grow as fast as the Ace stuff, but they had every bit as much muscling, and they had all the parasite resistance in the world. And when I went and got this buck and brought him home, that's why I went and got him. And I got some of the nicest kids out there are out of him. I've got a couple does in my herd that are just standouts. You go out there and look at them, and they're his daughters. He made some really nice ones for me. Resistol was a Maryland buck that did really well. I think he was number 7 overall, #3 fecal. On his bottom side is some genetics that maybe a lot of people don't know. You got EHL Potts, who's out of EHL Flint, and the Finesse Doe, which goes back to Pango. I saw a full sister to EHL Potts several times. Her name was Midnight, and she was really thick doe. Bruce Watkins had her, and Bruce Watkins was pretty rough on some goats. If you don't know who that is, Kendall does, and he knows that I ain't lying. He was rough on some goats, and she kept in good condition there at his place and never fell apart. So she had to be pretty tough and parasite resistant, and I think that's what you're getting there down on the bottom side. Uh, I think 409 himself, he sired a buck that tied with Kendall's #1 USDA grade buck in Mississippi. Uh, this buck checks all of my boxes. He was a really solid producer for me. Structure, structurally about as perfect as you can make him. Coming from Troy at TNT Farms, he's pretty picky on whatever bucks he puts out there, and I think he told me that he was a top 10 buck on his on-farm performance test. So he he did good on farm and with his kids and on test. So that's about all you can ask for.
Kendall?
Yeah, I seen this buck. Well, I actually had this buck here for a while. I think he was just here for a
You
short
took that
stay.
picture.
Yeah, that picture with his rear
You
end
took
to me.
that second picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked this buck. I couldn't talk Josephine to let me use him though. But I think he's got got some hams on him. You don't see very many Kikos. Well, you see a lot more now than you used to, but that thickness in that rear end, that's something. And it's not a fluke because this sire resistol is pretty muscled up, and this buck's real muscled up. And I would assume that you're going to get some great muscling in the offspring out of this buck.
Cooper?
Yep. Unlike Kendall, I was able to talk Joe into letting me use this buck. I used him for a year before Joseph sold him, and I brought him in for one reason only, is I wanted to try to get a buck kid out of him, mainly because of the fleshing ability that he had shown at other farms and that muscling. And I did keep a buck kid back out of him, out of the doe that I've got that is my most easy fleshing hands off does, and he's not white, so that's something that helps much, even though he was solid black. I'm excited for the future of that buck kid. I gave him 5 or 6 does, and that was 5 or 6 of my top does. I just really, when I have a young buck, I don't like to give them just whatever. I want to give them does that I know what they produce. That way, when I look at the kids, I know, was it a fluke or what? So here in mid-March, I'm really excited to get some kids out of that. Here's a fun fact. When I had this buck at my house, I measured his horns tip to tip, and I think he was 39 inches. Absolute massive set of horns on that sucker. And he knew exactly where the end of those horns was, too. So
Within an eighth of an inch, he knew where them things were.
yeah, and he'd throw about 8 inches at you.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity here. Don't let it pass you. Moving to lot 17, consigned by Cedar Springs Farms. This is 2 straws stored at Bull and Danza of GHK Dark Horse. Dark Horse is the own son of Iron Horse and a Terminator 2 GFI Rolling Meadows, daughter of Terminator 2, and a Tay daughter on the bottom out of Zorro. Kendall, what do you say?
Yeah, this is a buck you don't see much offspring out of anymore. When he's still alive at JD's, he's putting out some really nice, offspring for him. But I guess he's been dead a few years now. But I mean, he looks like he's got good frame and depth of body in the picture there, and good bone. And I mean, he goes back to the Terminator 2, so should get some growth and hopefully get some parasite resistance from the Terminator side that should translate into a pretty nice set of kids out of this book.
Joe?
I always thought he was probably my favorite Iron Horse buck. Talked to JD quite a bit about this buck. Um, he says he thinks he's a lot more Terminator than he is Iron Horse, and I tend to agree with him based on just his structure and the kids I've seen out of him. A lot of Iron Horse, he'll get a lot of frame and a lot of growth, but he seemed to be a little bit more of a moderate type buck. Good feet, and the bags on his daughters were really good. I don't think you could really go wrong with this buck. I've seen several of his daughters at JD's, and they're really nice does. So I don't think you can mess up with this one.
Cooper?
Yeah, I'll echo what Joe said on that. He's probably, if he's not the best Iron Horse son out there that I have any experience with, he's dang sure top 2 or 3. I saw a lot of kids that he produced for Hubbard Hill, and they're just tough as nails. Really nice and great bags on them. Really good mamas. I think this is a buck that JD wishes he still had. In fact, I know it is. He did a lot of great things when he was still alive, and I know he wished he was still walking the pasture today, but he's not. So we got semen straws on him, and somebody's fixing to buy him.
Yes. Lot 18. Lot 18 is consigned by B-Bar W. Kiko's, West Pinio. This is 6 straws. Repeat, 6 straws stored at SEK. This is BWP Pepe's Maverick. If you recall and was listening, Joe talked about this cross just a little while ago. Again, it's a JFK Pepe over a BWP Keepers 365 girl. That one that was so phenomenal in Wes's herd. So, Joe, I'm going to let you talk about this one.
Well, I bought this buck from Wes. I think it was 2018 or 2019. And there hasn't been a year since then, and I wished I still didn't have him. He's the buck that changed my herd around. And there's been people that been to my farm before I had him and after I had him, and they said there's a noticeable difference in my herd, and the impact that this buck brought to it is very noticeable. He was a moderate frame buck, very fleshy. I like the way he was built quite a bit. Carried a good bit of flesh on his frame. He had a decent amount of bone to him, and a lot of depth and width, and he passed that on to all of his offspring. It wasn't like you had a one-off every once in a while. You had a really, really nice buck or doe out of him. You can go back on my farm page and look at the kids out of them. They're about as cookie cutter as they come. He was tested himself. He was a number 8 fecal buck in Oklahoma. I tested him. Corey Cummins tested him. A couple of my buddies used him, and they tested him. Every one of us had top 10 or 15 bucks out of him. It wasn't like he was just working for me or just working for Corey. Everybody that used this buck had a buck on test in the top 10 or 15. I think the highest ever got with him was a number 2 buck. But that's pretty darn good. He's producing better than himself. I've got some of his daughters still. They got perfect bags, parasite resistance, as much as you could ask for, muscling, easy fleshing, good mothers. Everything that I want in a goat is what he brings to the table. The only reason I didn't keep him around is because I kept one of his sons that I thought I could come back to a little bit sooner rather than using him. I didn't want to get too tight on live breeding. I didn't want to breed him to his daughters, so I kept one of his sons that I could do a little more breeding with instead. Like I said earlier on the Royal Blend stuff, I've used several of the 365 sons, and he's one of them. Like I said, everything that I want in a goat, he brings to the table.
Cooper?
Yep, as all the bucks in this sale, this is number one on my hit list, and it's because of that maternal power on the bottom side, um, extreme consistency out of the kids that he produces. Fleshing is something I'm really trying to, and I don't mean how fat they can get if they live with their head in their bucket. I mean just how well conditioned they can stay just out on pasture. So, like I said, he's number one on my hit list. So if that tells you anything, what I think about him, I sure like him.
Kendall?
Yeah, he would be number one on mine, but I've already got his semen. But I could have used some more. I seen Peppy back when Wes bought him. Come from JFK Kiko's, Jack Fork Valley Kiko's. They're one of the original hands-off breeders back in the day. And they, you know, if something come from them that looked good, you could pretty well know it was going to do good for you, because they were all about the non-pampering and going on back. And then you look at that doe, that 365 doe. You understand why Netter's chasing that line bred doe line when you see that doe there. I mean, like I said, I've got this semen in my tank. That's how much I like it. It's gonna be used here soon over some of my line bred maternal maternal lines that I've been line breeding for the last, I don't know, ever how many years I've been doing this. But I think it's an excellent
What Kendall didn't
opportunity.
tell you, what Kendall didn't tell you is he tried to buy this book off of me, and about every time I talk to him, he tells me he wishes he would have bought him. But
Yeah, yeah. I had somebody swindle me out of him, get my spot.
I don't ring in a whole lot here, just kind of move it along. But one thing that Joe said that really sticks out to me as a producer is cookie cutter. I mean, you get these bucks that are one-offs and, have some good stuff, but consistency to build a herd on, and you got the 365. I don't have it in my tank, so look for me to be bidding.
No.
Yeah. So moving on to lot 19. Lot 19 is one straw stored at Bonanza, consigned by Impact Kikos, and this is Heslington Sesame. I've got to get queued up here where I was talking. Hold on with me 1 second. Here we go. So one straw, Heslington Sesame, consigned by Impact Kikos, stored at Bonanza. Open floor. Somebody jump in.
We'll let the oldest goat talk about the old goat.
There you go.
That's
Send
Kendall.
Angel.
No, that wouldn't
Oh
be me.
shoot!
Yeah. Oldest knowledge base. Let's go with that.
I mean, this is one of those bucks that never made the trip over. He just come over frozen in straws, and he's very prevalent in the pedigrees of the original imports. And we got, I guess, Dr. Ann bought this semen from Garrett Batten, and then she sold a few straws over the years, and that's how we get this opportunity now. Very sought after bloodlines, very well built. The ones I've seen, the modern ones I've seen. I haven't seen the older ones. I never get to see much, but what they've used here lately, they've been well built, solid looking animals. So this would be an opportunity for somebody to use some old genetics over some modern day genetics and
Yep.
see what you can bring to the table. Um, it'll be interesting. See what it's been a while since much of this is sold either.
Yep.
And I'm real sure this got to be some of the last. I mean, there's not very many straws of sesame left.
Not that I know of. Joe, can you ring in on it? Let us know something.
Uh, I don't really know much more than what Kendall's added to it, but just look at the picture of that buck. He's square on his points. He's carries that depth all the way through. Looks like he's got a pretty good barrel on him, so he's got to have decent Springer rib, and I've seen some stuff out of him, and they seem to carry that type. I'm Kendall knows this because he's kind of the same way. He's a When we look at goats, we generally look at the maternal side of it, and he's on the maternal side of one of my favorite lines, which is Keeper. You got Sting over Sesame, and if you've got something that's heavy and Sting, and you want to try a little Sesame, here's your chance. We talked about Generator earlier, who's double Sting, so you got some Generator genetics. Try some Sesame, see if it works.
All right. Lot 20. Lot 20 is 2 straws of EAV Generators 184. These are stored at Bonanza or Flying Cow. And Van Hees have offered to share the shipping to SEK. This is a Generator son over a Sundance Kid daughter. Cooper, can you talk about this one?
I can. I don't have any direct experience with the buck himself, but I know the type of operation that Eric and Amy run, and it's a tough one. You look at this buck's dam, the Mary Berry doe. She has it in there that this buck here would be a half brother through the dam to the Moto buck, which I'm pretty sure he's in the sale later on, and that is one heck of a good looking buck. He helped them win the Herdsman Award at the Oklahoma Test several years ago, and I know that doe is kind of a short and squatty doe, and you can add a little of the frame on the Generator side of things. And I would bet that when this buck finished growing, he's going to be a little short, squatty toed looking thing, which is what I like out of a buck. I think the doe side here, even though when I look at the pedigree down there, I don't see something that tells me we're going to have a short doe, but that's what she is. Like I said, this is a new buck for them. It's going to be a new buck for us, and they're giving you the opportunity to get down on the ground floor of it.
Joe, anything?
Well, we talked about some of the similar maternal genetics on one of Amy's earlier bucks. And, I think if they're flushing that cross, it must be pretty good. They kept a herd sire out of that cross, and if they're making another herd sire out of a very similar cross, it must be working. Something's working there. We talked about the performance of it earlier. You've got the Sundance Kid, who was number 1 buck, and then Outlaw, who sired several number 1s. So maternals on this is working.
Kendall?
I was just reading what Amy had put in that this is our IVF, so she's done the time and the money to get this cross out there, and then there was 10 bucks out of this cross. She culled 4 of them for meat, and then tested the other 6 on farm, and 2 of them didn't make it. So this is the cream of the crop of this cross. So she's spent the money on the semen and the IVF for everyone to get a chance to use the cream out of her hard work, her and Eric's hard work. So it's very interesting, and it's really nice that breeders are doing this and offering it to everyone to get a chance to use.
Listening to you guys, the two things that ring out to me was, you know, she believed in it, or she'd have never spent the money to do the IVF on that cross
Right.
from that doe. And then if you've not done IVF or any repo work, it costs money. And to see that you cull out of that, it's really, really hard when you have the money sunk into it. So to do that, to better the breed and bring in an offering like this is awesome. Anything else? Let me cue up lot 21. Lot 21 is 2 straws of MCR Ringleader D10. He is a GHK high voltage son over the GHK Mustang Sally doe, which was a pretty well used Iron Horse daughter. This was signed by Mill Creek Ranch. 2 straws, GHK MCR Ringleader, stored at Bonanza. Kendall?
This buck was used by 3 different farms. I know Brent sold it to Christy Muhall. She used him I don't know how many years, and she dominated the buck test that year on growth. And I guess Brent and Jared Dennison decided to buy him whenever she decided she's going to sell him, and they used them both, and they both did well on test and the growth side. So if you're wanting some growth, if you need to add some growth, it's already proven that this buck can do it over 3 different herds. So I've got a ringleader daughter out in the herd. She's strong maternals, crosses well with the Chinook. I don't know, not much more you can ask for a buck to be able to do it over 3 different herds. You're gonna get the growth out of him. He throws the ADG.
Cooper, got anything?
Like Kendall said, I mean, he's well tested, especially in the growth department. When I look at his pedigree, I also see a lot of names on there that tells me that his daughters are going to be dang good mamas. You got Loverboy in there, Taz Matoya. You got the R06 doe up there on top. Not a whole lot to not like here. We appreciate Brent putting this out there for us to bid on.
Joe, anything on the performance side?
No, Kendall covered it. I mean, he dominated for several years in a row there for a bunch of different people. And the people that bought the sons out of this buck ended up doing really well on test with it. There's not a lot of bucks out there there's not a lot of prominent bucks out there that you could point at a son and say, I think he's better. But in my opinion, I think D10 is better than high voltage. If it was me choosing a buck, I'd pick D10 over high voltage. You're going to get a lot more proven performance out of it. I've seen a lot of the sons and daughters of D10 and easy fleshing. The does I've liked quite a bit. They have a lot of body to them once they get into production, and milky does that'll produce some heavy weaning kids.
Okay. Lot 22 is consigned by Cedar Spring Farms. This is 2 straws of GHK Jack Flash, stored at Bonanza. Cooper?
From what I know, this is an extremely tough buck. Parasite resistance side is high here. You'll see, and I cannot remember her stinking name, but there's a full sister out of this buck that you see on a tremendous amount of pedigrees. I just cannot remember her name. You see that Nikita doe a lot as well. And when you look at the buck himself, I mean, he's got the build that I like. It's not quite the color, but that's neither here nor there.
Joe?
Well, like Cooper was saying, he's got to be a pretty tough buck. He was at Warren Barnes for several years. I believe that's where that picture was taken, and you can see the condition that he is in. Warren did not pamper a goat ever in his lifetime, and if you've got a buck that's looking like that, he's got to be made of something pretty tough. I think that's what you'll get out of it. Like Cooper said, that Nikita doe, I think the Sparks, that was one of their foundation does. I know they talked quite a bit about it. Whenever I was getting into it, I know that doe had a pretty good name for herself.
Kendall?
This cross was that 2689 was first time that she sold that semen, Dr. Ann, and I think it was Warren Barnes and Ron Polite and Dave Sparks. They went together and bought 2689 semen and 2289 and 6289, and they flushed it that year. And this is a result. I think this was the most successful flush that they done. I think they got 24 embryos, maybe 26 embryos out of that. There was a few bucks that were registered out of it, and like Cooper was talking about, a couple doe, 2 or 3 does that got registered. So there was several good kids come out of this flush. And 2689, if I remember right, was one of the most parasite resistant of the original 4 that Dr. Ann brought in. So it's been a while since this has been used. Be interesting to see what people can do with it now.
Lot 23. Lot 23 consigned by Danny Vaughn. This is 2 straws of GHK B14 Hoosier Daddy, who is stored at Bull Nanza. Hoosier Daddy's been gaining some traction here. He is a Iron Horse son. Sold the cream of the crop. I think he was a high selling buck there. His dam, which always interests me, and I got Hoosier Daddy early on, back several years ago, because of Skybird Salsa P6, which is Loverboy over Tasman Toyo. Cooper?
Yep. The P6 doe, when I first got into the Kikos, Linda went on and on and on about her. And you talk to other people, and they do as well. So it wasn't something that was just good at Goat Hill Kikos. It performed well across the country. And you look at the Loverboy over Tasman Toya, you can see why. Thinking on the maternal side of things. And then she put her top doe over underneath Iron Horse and produced this absolute giant buck. I mean, this sucker is huge. So if you wanted to add frame and add maternal ability, here you go. This rascal, he looks big in the picture, but from what I've been told, that doesn't even do him justice. There's a picture of him in a stock trailer somewhere that he looks like a horse.
Yeah. He's about half as long as the trailer, and I think it was when they were loading him or unloading him from cream to crop. Kendall, is that right?
I think that's when Sanders brought him to
Yeti
when he bought him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got anything to add on this lot, Kendall?
Yeah, I seen him sell at the cream. He was buckling when he sold. Like you said, he was a high seller that year, and he is very impressive buckling. I've got some of this in my tank as well, mostly for the doe side. I mean, Iron Horse doesn't hurt it. I mean, everybody knows Iron Horse, but like Netter was saying earlier, I tend to look at the maternal side of things and select a lot of bucks to bring in from how their dam did and how it's built. So that P6 doe, I've seen a lot of offspring out of her over the years, and they've all have been very well built, muscled up, legs out in the corner and deep. So that's why I chose to add him to my collection.
Cooper, I'm gonna shoot. I'm sorry, Joe.
Now, Kendall and Cooper both talked about the maternals. So I guess you're going to have three people talking about maternals on this book.
Okay.
I never did see P6 in person, but I saw some pictures of her. And she was just an absolute tank of a doe. Like Kendall said, standing wide on all 4 points. Depth of body on that doe was out of the world. Her gut was about dragging the ground. I think when I'm looking at maternal stuff, I'm always looking for depth of body and capacity because I think that adds to their efficiency in my mind, and I think that's what you'll get out of this is that phenotype. I've seen some daughters out of Who's Your Daddy, and they had that same type, square built, pretty deep and wide. Uh, that should be what you get, and if you need another reason, he's a lion killer.
Yeah. Lot
Take it your way
24.
around.
Uh, Lot 24 is consigned by Sinway Farms. This is 5 straws stored at Triple W Genetics. 5 straws of JKC Hammer's Keeper, and I think if I remember right, this was lot 1 of some embryos over Hammer's Keeper. If you want to create your own, here's your opportunity. A Hammer son over a Keeper daughter that Sinway Farm is offering. Kendall?
Yeah, I mean, oh, Philip Winburn, he's the breeder on this buck, and he had a pretty good eye for goats, and like I forget who said it, it might have been Netter said that this was going to be his future herd sire, way he's wanting to go. So that's enough for me to be chasing it because Philip he's very opinionated in what he liked, but he had a good eye. He had a very good eye for goats. So.
He looked at a lot of goats. He had looked at a lot of goats. Joe?
Yeah, I talked about this buck a good bit at the beginning when we were talking about the embryos. But like I said, I saw him a couple different times. First time when he was young, and he had a ton of muscle for a young buck. He just carrying it everywhere, front to back. Had some pretty good hams on him. Pretty heavy bone to him for a young buck. Also, I saw both Lucy and Belle, which were those twin does there that Rich bought and flushed. They were really nice does. About as nice as you could make them, in my opinion. Long, deep, wide. We just talked about the body capacity, and they had every bit that they needed, and they had the flesh to go with it. They were older does by the time I saw them, and they had pretty good bags on them. I think Belle had a really good bag on her. So if you're looking for some maternals that are gonna increase your fleshing ability, should be able to do it for you.
Cooper, you want to add anything?
I mean, Hammer over Keeper, boy. You wrap that up into a really nice looking buck that was bred by a man that, like we said, Philip looked at a whole lot of goats. I did get to meet Philip several times. I enjoyed my conversations with him. I enjoyed his candidness on what he thought. I'd rather know what you think than have to guess about what a man thinks. So I like what I see here on the paperwork side, and I like what I see when you look at a picture of the buck. If people listen and want to see a picture of him, there is a picture of him on lot 1. So good chance here.
Lot 25. Lot 25 is consigned by Black Rock Kikos. This is 1 straw one straw stored at Bonanza. This is ELH Blue Sun. Joe talked about a lot of the Blue Sun Suns out there. Joe, why don't you start us off with it?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of them out there, and people are chasing it for a reason. I mean, they're not just doing it to do it. There's a reason behind that. This buck's been known as one of the premier maternal lines in the breed, one of the best doe bucks that there is. He's got everything that you need for your maternal side, and just the mothering ability, the protectiveness of their kids and such. I remember the people who used this buck himself, whenever I was getting into it, used to talk about that quite a bit. It's just how fiercely they protected their kids. If you're Kikos are a maternal breed. If you're lacking in that kind of thing, you need to fix it, and this buck should be able to do it for you. That's my opinion.
Cooper?
A really cool opportunity at one of the biggest names in our industry. Like Joe said, the maternal power here is tremendous, but there's also a whole string of bucks that have done excellent on the performance testing side of things. So to me, Blue Sun's really kind of the total package kind of animal, and that blue color sure don't hurt him a bit.
Kendall?
This is one of those bucks you could take and take your matriarch doe. It's your favorite doe. It's produced good for you, and use this straw over and really take your herd to the next level. He's like everybody said, one of the most well-known bucks in the breed, and he's just going to help you maternals and I mean his bucks aren't too shabby either.
Okay.
Andy, if you go back to that picture a little bit, I got something I wanted to say when you went by it. I noticed it. If you go back to that picture
Sure.
of Blue Sun,
Yep. This one?
just look at the feet on that buck. Cooper mentioned it earlier. If your buck don't have a strong foundation to build off of, then he ain't gonna do you any good. And that's one thing that I'm pretty anal about is structural correctness, and just the feet and leg structure on this buck from the ground up. You couldn't ask for better. If maybe you've gone to a point where maybe you need a little help in that area on structural correctness and soundness, that's structural soundness plays into stability, and stability plays into profitability on the maternal side. And if you don't have that, then you don't have profitability. So if you need a little help in that area, he should be able to give it to you.
Ground up. Ground up. They got to
Right.
move. They got to be able to walk and get the forage and do it efficiently. And I think that's where you get your fleshing at. It's when you got a correct animal that they can move and do it with ease and not exert extra effort. So, good point, Joe. Moving on to Lot 26. Lot 26 is consigned by Whistling Dixie Kikos. This is 2 straws of BWP Thunderhead. These straws are stored at Triple W Genetics. I seen this buck. I think it's the first time I had met Joe. Joe was collecting this buck. He was a nice, young-looking buck for sure. Just keep an eye on him. We actually talked about swapping some straws that day. I was that interested in him. So, Joe, why don't you tell us about him?
No, I remember that day. The reason we had him there to get him collected was because we'd put a pile of money down on him and didn't want nothing to happen to him. And look at that picture, you can see why we put a pile of money down on him. He's about as well built a young buck as you could ask for. We just talked about structural correctness and soundness, and this buck had it every way you wanted it. And I used him for a couple years, and then ended up going a little bit of a different direction with my doe base. I just wanted to focus on my line breeding project. That's why I didn't keep using him. But there was nothing wrong with this buck or his offspring. He made some phenomenal daughters, perfect bags, excellent mothers. Um, his he's actually, if you look at it, he's out of Sonny Boy and Keeper, which you don't see that combination very often.
Nope.
But Sonny Boy hired Outlaw and Thriller, and out of the Sonny Boy bucks that are out there, I believe that Thunderhead has more top 10, 15 sons than any Sonny Boy buck other than Outlaw. I tallied it up a while back, and I was pretty impressed with how he did, especially in the fecal department. I know he had a top 5 fecal, and he had the number 2 fecal in Oklahoma, top 5 fecal in West Virginia, top 5, I think, top 15 overall in West Virginia, several different top 10s in Oklahoma. So the performance credentials are there, the maternals are there. If you wanna breed some does and get some daughters that you can keep out of them, I think you can do it with this buck. He throws a good bit of that blue color, and one thing he does throw is some spots. Also, I didn't expect it, but he threw a decent amount of spots. So if you're looking for a little flash on your doe herd, you can probably do it there.
Cooper?
I don't think I can beat what came right out of the horse's mouth. um,
Kendall?
I just looking at the pedigree as far as well-known bucks and does, and this buck is stacked with them. Only reason why Netter didn't keep this buck, it was out of the wrong keeper daughter. If it was out of the other keeper daughter, he'd kept it.
Yeah, 365.
That's right.
This is a very
That's
well-bred buck.
that's part of the reason I bought him in the first place is his dam there is that Molly doe. She was one of Wes's better keeper does. I know he flushed her several different times, and I saw a pile of kids out of her. They were all really consistent in type. It didn't matter if they were out of Tough, if they were out of Sonny Boy. It didn't really matter. She made them all look the same. We talked about consistency earlier. I think that's what you'll get. Uh, Keeper over S77, I believe, is what Molly was, and we talked about S77 being some pretty productive genetics, and she showed it.
All right. Moving on to lot 27. Lot 27 is consigned by Sterling V Ranch. It is 2 straws of generator 189 stored at Bonanza or Flying Cow. And again, Van de Hees are willing to share shipping to SEK if that's where you have it. This is a generator son over a Blue Sun daughter, Team K Blues Heidi. I know from Amy. Amy really, really liked that doe. She's bred that doe a lot. And for her to do that on a generator flush got to mean a lot. So, Cooper, why don't you roll us?
yeah, I'll start by talking about the Heidi doe. I've talked to Amy multiple times about how much she likes Heidi. It says there in the write-up that she bought her at 5 years old, and she's just been awesome ever since. Hard to anybody that's bought very many goats. You buy a doe that's older, they're hard to get integrated in your herd. But the Heidi doe is the exception to that rule with the Van de Hees. I know that doe has been bred to probably just about every herd sire they've had on the place. Always making good kids. And here's just another example of her believing so much in that doe to spend the money on that semen and to spend the money on that IVF, and then to allow us to reap the benefits of her hard work and money. And like we've all said, when you're looking at a buck to use on your doe herd, all three of us, or all of us, we really focus on that dam side of things because we are raising a maternal herd. I know we forget about that. And this is a great doe that this buck's out of. So I would expect great things from him.
Joe, anything?
Yeah, I was reading her right up there, and we talked about stability a little bit ago, and that doe's 11 years old and still producing strong, and that's what makes you your money in this business, and that's what you want in your doe herd. Like Cooper said, we're a maternal breed, and if we can't have does around for a lot of years producing kids, then we got something wrong. So, but you should be able to make some bang up daughters out of this buck.
Kendall?
Yeah, this is a buck from her IVF. This buck was in the same group as the other buck, that one of the four that made the cut after the culling and then the on-farm testing. So they've done all the hard work as far as making sure you got a quality animal, and now they're offering the semen out on him. So to me, you should be able to bid with confidence, knowing that they've done the due diligence, spent the money, and culled the animals.
Yeah, just again, I enjoy listening to this, and I hope everybody out there in Kiko world does, because you keep hearing maternals, and I think everybody sitting here talking today, if you got a doe and she's doing 3 and 4 years and then she's done, to Joe's point, you can't make money that way. You got to have longevity. You got to have productivity, and when you get that and you see it, you better grab a hold of it. That was my 2 cents. Lot 28. Consigner is Cedar Springs Farms. This is 2 straws of MCR Wild West stored at Bonanza. Wild West is a GFI Wild Bill son over a Nick Daughter Sky 776 Wahuna. Cooper, you know anything about this?
I don't know anything about this buck in particular, but the Wild Bill line of things is one of my favorites out there, especially, you just talked about it because of his maternal ability, and he'll dang sure throw you some parasite resistance as well. When we talk about the maternal ability, just skip on down to the bottom half of this pedigree. You got Nick over Tasman Toya. Like I said, I don't know anything about the buck himself. You do not see a lot of Wild Bill sons out there because it is such a strong doe line. But when you do get one that proves himself worthy of staying around and breeding does, I would expect him to be able to make you a bunch of good does.
Kendall?
Yeah, I believe this was Brent Ballinger's replacement for Wild Bill whenever he lost him. Very, very strong maternals, like Cooper was saying. Matoya lived to like 15 years old. Some staying power for sure. I haven't seen this buck's semen offered, I don't think, before. Maybe it has, but it's been a long time.
Joe?
Yeah, we talked about Terminator earlier. I think he carries the same phenotype that a lot of Terminator stuff does, and that's why I like Terminator. My mind is, you've always got that strong phenotype that follows through with all of them. You've got a lot of body capacity, but a lot of width and depth to them, and you can see the buck there. He has that. Wild Bill semen's been selling outrageously high, so if you maybe want a little bit more of a budget option and get the same genetics, you can get that here. I know that Wild Bill's been doing good on the performance side of things lately. I believe the Marks tested some out of a Wild Bill son, and they did well. Pat's got that wild Billy buck, and she's been doing really good on with him at West Virginia and Mississippi. On the bottom side, that Wahuna doe, she's the same cross. Bruce Watkins had Black Paradox for a lot of years, so I saw a lot of stuff out of it. And we talked about how hard Bruce was on goats, and they seem to last and stick around there. So I think you get a lot of toughness out of this Wild West buck, top and bottom.
Cooper, good.
I already went.
Oh, good.
Yep, I'm good.
All right. Lot 29, designed by Mill Creek Ranch. 2 straws stored at Bonanza of CVK Ryback. This is a Lynn 8 son over AVG June. I have to say this. I've seen more Ryback straws sold by everybody else other than Kendall Barnes, and he must be holding his for a very good reason. I got to tell you that. So, Kendall, tell us about it.
Oh, I mean, this buck is like there's only 3 bucks that go back to the original June, and he's one of them. Yeah, the other one is the other 2 are keepers, 116, 117. This buck changed my mind, and what I could do in the Kiko world when he was growing up and he was built the way he was. I was like, man, I don't see very many Kikos built like this. So he's the one that made me switch gears and chase the more moderate frame, easy fleshing, solid feet, and muscled up. So, I mean, he's on my wall right now, so. I mean, that's how much I like him. He's on my wall. But like I said, I sold some of these straws in bundles back when I first collected them, and I guess this is what's going on now. Is people didn't use much of it, and now they're offering it for sale. And I'm just kind of sitting on mine. I'm going to probably start bringing him back to the surface here soon. I've got $3 or $4, $5 still out of him producing in the herd. Spotted clover, purple clover, pumpkin. Pumpkin just produced a very well tested buck in North Dakota. I think he was 15th, but he was, I don't know, 5th in average daily gain in the Kikos, and then I think he was number 2 in carcass. So that's what you're going to get if you pick the right doe. You're going to get easy fleshing, muscled up offspring.
I had a Ryback doe, went on a trip. She did a really great job. She was a great mother. That's one reason I bought straws back when they were for sale. Plan on using it myself. I will mention from the just if you haven't followed many of the sales, the Lynn 8 buck sold the cream of the crop just not long ago, and this is a Lynn 8 son, and he brought $8,300 or something like that up there. Hubbard Hills had in, so and that and back to the original June. So Joe, you go.
Kendall talked about Ryback changing his herd from what it was to what it is now, and I talked about the Maverick buck that I had being kind of the same thing, and I actually traded some Maverick semen for some Ryback semen, so that's why Kendall has Maverick semen, because I wanted this Ryback semen. I saw Ryback a lot of times because I've been to Kendall's place a lot of times, and Kendall had a lot of bucks in his pasture one year, and he asked me which one I liked the best, and I still couldn't pick anyone other than Ryback because he was a heck of a buck. I think he was 8 or 9 years old at that point, and he was still holding good condition. His structure was holding up, and he was every bit of what he looks like in that picture there. And we talked about longevity, playing into maternals, and I think if you want maternal genetics, I think Ryback's about as good as you can find.
Cooper?
Andy produced some performance tested stuff, didn't he, Kendall? Number 2 in West
Yeah.
Virginia, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything to add that the other two gentlemen haven't said, other than I guess I'm the only one in the group that doesn't have any. And I'd sure like that to change. So I think a lot of this buck, especially his mama. So
All right, lot 30, consigned by Hoosier Hill Kikos. This is 2 straws stored at RSG in Lebanon, Indiana. This is TLF Exceller. This is a Nick son over a Goldmine daughter. Kendall?
And this buck was owned by, oh, man, I can't remember his name. He owned was it Hardman? Tommy Hardman?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where this buck was used most of the time. He wasn't polled like he looks in that photo. He got his horns caught up in some fencing, and they ended up having to cut his horns off there because he messed them up pretty good. I know Craig Adams used him a little bit and really got some exceptional growth out of him. He told me his daughters were very heavy milkers. Just something you might keep in mind when you use him. Just make sure you cross him over some does with some good udder attachment, because you're going to increase your milk production. If you look at his pedigree, it's stacked with some old school genetics. I think these same cross as that TLF Legend that Philip Winburn used a lot. So very, very well bred buck.
Joe?
There aren't many direct Nick sons out there that you can get a hold of, and he's one of them. Kendall mentioned Legend. I saw a lot of stuff out of Legend. I didn't see as much out of Exceller. What I did came from the Hardmans, and Wes had some stuff that went back to Exceller. Patches, Mr. Speckles Patches, who was a top 10 buck in Maryland, went back to an Exceller doe. So that's about my closest experience with Exceller, is seeing that stuff from Wes. The Legend stuff seemed to be pretty similar, from what I could tell, but I don't have much direct experience with this buck.
Cooper? Anything?
I don't have anything to add than what has already been said. I mean, I could regurgitate what we can all read there on his pedigree. Extremely well bred buck. Like what Joe said, there's not very many Nick sons out there that you can get a hold of, but here's your good opportunity to do so.
Yes. Lot 31, consigned by Impact Kikos. This is 2 straws stored at Bonanza of WMB Mingo. Mingo is a Pango Hewitt son over ECR Condi. Joe, you want to start us on this one?
Mingo and Hobo were the same cross, and Hobo's got a lot of attention lately, and sold really well last time I seen it sell. I don't think Mingo ever really got the attention that Hobo did, but if you look at the picture there and compare it with a picture of Hobo, they're about cookie cutter. I've seen some pictures of both of them bucks whenever they were kids at Warren Barnes, and we talked about how rough Warren ran them, and both of them bucks are just stacked with muscle. You couldn't tell them apart. Really solid bucks there. I know Pango's done really well for Kendall on the maternal side, so he could probably add to it more than I could.
Go ahead, Kendall.
Yeah, Mingo's one of those, probably one of the nicer Pango sons. When I think of Pango, the 3 bucks that come to mind first is Ringo, Mingo, and Hobo. There's a few others out there. Andy's got one. But Pango's getting hard to find. Nobody's using it. Making any more Pango kids. And then you got the classic Nick Glory cross on the bottom side. I had some really good daughters out of Mingo used, and then the Thunder Thighs doe I had. So I mean, I got him in my
Thighs
tank.
was probably one.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Thunder Thighs. Whenever you had her, she was probably one of my favorite does that you ever had. She was really nice doe, and then Thor was out of Thunder Thighs, wasn't
Mm, yeah.
he? Yeah.
Yep.
So
So
some of my favorite stuff that you ever had went back to this stuff here.
it goes back to what you were talking about earlier, breeding likeness. You know, that doe was that Thunder Thighs Olive was pretty short and stocky built, and then put Mingo over that, and then Chinook over that. You know, just you keep breeding for the same body type. Um, it it just gets more consistent.
Cooper?
Yeah, he's a extremely well built buck. He's really pleasing to look at. In my opinion, anytime you can add Pango into your herd, you're not doing yourself a disservice by that in any means. And then, like Bill said, you got that famous Nick over Gloria cross with the Condi doe. To me, there's nothing not to like here at all.
Agreed. And like Kendall said, I do have a Pango buck, and he is helping change my herd with maternals, bags, parasites. If you can add it to your herd, do. Lot 32. Lot 32 is consigned by Sterling V Ranch. This is EAV Moto number 1, Oklahoma 22. Duly named. He was in the 2022 Oklahoma test. I think he was number 1 in ADG that year. Amy does have a really great write up again. Talks about buying this buck back, having an opportunity to buy it back, and she liked this buck so well that she did, and then cross it with that Mary Berry doe. So Cooper, tell us what you know on this.
Well, this buck's daddy, Golden Hammer, is a buck that I liked a lot. And not just because that he's a Hammer son. What I liked most about Golden Hammer was his mama. A really heavy golden boy bred doe, extremely well built doe. If I remember correctly, she's also kind of white and black painted, just like this guy here. And man, when you look at the picture of this buck, what's not to like? Kent Slavens bought him right off the test, and Kent is well known for collecting performance tested bucks. And I know that Eric and Amy were extremely happy to have the chance to get him back, and I'm excited to see what they do with him in their herd. I really enjoy looking at pictures of this buck. Looks to be well muscled. I know how Eric and Amy run their operation. I think I know how Kent runs his operation, and they're dang sure not living with their head in the bucket. So that tells me that this buck here has the ability to flesh out easily on pasture. And the pasture he's on, if anybody knows anything about that, that's not real nutritious stuff that he's standing in. So he's able to do well on low quality forage, which is something that we all need to chase, in my opinion.
Joe?
Yeah, Cooper pretty much summed it up. If you look what he's standing in, I don't know many goats that'll look that good on foxtail. So he's hitting a nail on the head there. We talked about the bottom side on this buck earlier. Sundance Kid over Outlaw. He got number 1 over number 1 producer, and then Moto was number 1. So it follows through there. I know Golden Hammer and Megawatt, whenever Tim had them as buck kids and was selling them, I seen several pictures of them, and they were hard to tell apart. Wes had a buck called Power Surge out of Megawatt that he had quite a bit of kids out of, and they carried quite a bit of flesh and seemed to have a similar phenotype to the buck here on your screen. So consistency and performance is, I guess, what you'll get out of it because it's been following through.
Kendall?
Yeah, this is a buck that caught my eye when I was flipping through the catalog. Just a new age, more new age buck, and he caught my attention because I'd never seen a picture of him before. Just very well built and muscled up, like everybody else said. So he's impressive. Be interesting to see what happens with him here.
Yep. No, I was happy to see this. Also happy to see if you followed along kind of what we've been talking about and some of the bucks. I get this will be on our Facebook page and the YouTube page. But you got Hammer, Titans Hammer, and we've talked about that and what that does to a herd. You've got Golden Boy. We've talked about that in the past with the fleshing. And you got Sundance Kid, which did well for Stemmy over Outlaw with that Mary Berry. And I actually put some Sundance Kid in this year to see what it would do myself. So I'm following along here as well. Nice looking buck. All right. Lot 33. 33 is consigned by USA Kikos. This is 2 straws of BBM Sports Cat Y253. They are stored at Bonanza. Y253 is a Sky S408 Super Sports Cat Son over Nick Daughter, ECR Glory that we just talked about, ECR Gloria Daughter. So, Kendall, I'm going to cue this up and let you talk.
All right. This sports cat's getting very hard to get a hold of. All the stuff was born natural to him's 12, 13 years old now. So this is a rare opportunity. Goes, Nick Glory on the bottom side. So I've seen a lot of sports cat over the Nick Glory, and it all seemed to work pretty well. I haven't seen very many kids out of this boat, but I've seen a lot of semen selling here lately, so it'll be interesting to see what comes of it. Should be a good buck, in my opinion.
Joe?
Now, Sports Cat's out of one of my favorite does, Tasman Temperatures, and if anybody's ever seen a picture out of Tasman Temperatures, you can see that Sports Cat didn't get all of his muscling from his daddy. He got a lot of his muscling from his mama. Aristocrat, Tasman Aristocrat on the bottom side is some of my favorite genetics. I think you got a lot of good maternals that come with that Tasman Aristocrat. Temptress was, I think she went to Richard Browning at TSU whenever he was buying up a bunch of Kiko does to do that breed comparison. And as far as I know, she did really well. I have heard that she was a #1 producing doe of all time that he ever had on farm. I don't know that that's true, but I have heard that in the past. So you got good maternals there, and then on the bottom side you got Nick over Gloria, which again is some pretty highly sought after genetic combination for the dam side.
Cooper?
I don't know much about the buck himself or what he produces, but I do know how impressive the paperwork is that stands behind him. It's hard to beat, and like Kendall said, there's been quite a bit of this stuff been being sold recently. So I'm excited to see. I hope people actually use it and don't just sit on it. Because I'd sure like to see the kind of kids that this buck is able to produce, since it is so hard to get that close to Sports Cat. And one thing for you, Andy, I really enjoy being able to see the Facebook comments pop up on here. Since we can't follow along with the comments, it's fun to see what people are throwing on there.
Yep. That's pretty cool. I've been trying to keep up with it tonight. Thank you. Lot 34, consigned by Danny Vaughn. This is 2 straws of MRG Outlaw, stored at Bonanza. Outlaw is probably one of the Most well-known Sonny Boy sons. It's Sonny Boy over an imprint daughter, and we have that imprint straw early on in the sale. Outlaw's test record is quite phenomenal. Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit what you know about it? You've got a good brain.
Oh, I mean, just go back in the OSU's Eastern Oklahoma State. Just go back a few years and just put your finger at number one and just go across for 3 or 4 years, because that's where Outlaw placed his sons for several years in a row. You've got number one, number two, number three, several consecutive years that went back to they were Outlaw sons. And I think that's pretty hard to beat there. There aren't many bucks that can do that. And I like Sonny Boy stuff enough to buy a buck out of him, and it did well for me on test. And I think Outlaw is one of them bucks that there's quite a bit of people out there that are after it, so you better jump on this when you can.
Cooper, test was out your way. Tell us about it.
Well, it's hard to argue with the results that Outlaw Sons put out there. I know that you're going to get good parasite resistance out of it. From what I've known about it, you're going to have pretty good foot. You look at the picture of him there; he's got good black hooves, and the mothering ability that you get out of the Outlaw stuff is really well known across the country. At least what people have told me. But buy this, buy you some Iron Horse semen, make you an Iron Horse doe, put it in there, because it's an awfully proven cross, especially in terms of the buck test. So,
Kendall?
There's not much I can add. They've hit a lot of it. I mean, he's a well-known buck. Tested well, probably one of the. He's right up there with Hammer as far as testing. Solid buck. Got a double shot of heritage in his backgrounds, so it's hard to get that heritage, gold mines heritage in your herd.
This is true. That's and to Joe's point, I mean, when I started off, I went to Sonny Boy because of the parasite testing and performance, and then I got an LE1 daughter in the herd here, so I went for that same type of cross to build off of, to put in some fleshing up animals. I think you could build on this really, really well.
I think if you're lacking growth, and there ain't probably not another buck out there that can give you some growth like Outlaw can. Some of the biggest Kikos I've ever seen have gone back to Outlaw, and that's not an understatement. They're big. You got quite a bit of growth behind this buck.
Yep. Lot 35. Lot 35 is consigned by Impact Kikos. This is 2 straws stored at Bonanza. This is a Sesame son, Hesseling Sesame over a Iron Horse daughter. This is LFK J901 Sesame's Hot Shot. They got a good ride up here on this buck. I don't know a lot about him. Kendall, can you help me?
I don't know a whole lot about him. I can't. That year, Stimmy sold several Sesame Sons.
Yep.
I don't remember if this was one that was sold at Heritage or when. I know they all brought very good money. Yep. But you get the Sesame over an Iron Horse daughter, and then what's different about this Iron Horse daughter is she's a TNT Cody though, so not your typical Iron Horse cross, but it's very interesting. I haven't seen any kids out of this buck either, so I'm kind of shooting in the dark here, but from the picture, he looks like he's built well, got good fleshing, and going to get some size to him.
I do have two straws of this. Early on when they offered it, I got it because of TNT Cody on the bottom. I had a Sonny Boy son 1622 which was out of a TNT Cody daughter, and he was really hardy. And to Joe's point, he had a number 10 ADG buck in West Virginia. The growth is there, so you got growth on the bottom here, and then old school genetic Sesame on top with Iron Horse in the middle. Joe or Cooper, you want to say anything?
I'll add something.
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead, Cooper.
Go ahead. The Iron Horse over TNT
Hi.
Cody doe, that Iron Klondike doe, she is one of the, we just talked about Outlaw over Iron Horse. That Iron Klondike doe is one of those does that produced a lot of those top winners. So you've got old school semen that only came across the water frozen being put into a really well proven doe. And like Kendall said, this buck is huge. A lot of your Iron Horse stuff is large frame. So if you wanted to upsize your goats and keep popular genetics up close, there's a good chance to do it here.
Joe?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, that buck, like you said, that you're going to get a lot of growth out of that. But like Kendall pointed out on the bottom side with that TNT Cody, one of my early foundation does went back to that AFK Y47, and she ended up having more TNT Cody on the bottom side. That's TNT Cody is one of those lines that you don't really see very often anymore. It goes back to Klondike and Aristocrat on the back side of that. I mentioned earlier how much I like the Aristocrat on my maternals, but that doe that I was talking about, one of my early foundation does, it went back to Y47 on the bottom side. She produced for me till she was 11 years old, and she kidded every year that I had her, including twice the first year that I had her. And I've got several of her daughters still in my herd right now. She had a perfect bag all the way to the end, so we talked about how important longevity is to your maternals, and when I see that Y47 on the bottom side there, it kind of interests me a little bit.
For sure. Lot 36. Lot 36 is consigned by Hoosier Hill Kikos. This is two straws stored at RSG in Lebanon, Indiana. This is two straws of BWP Blues Tar Heel. This is, again, a Blue Sun's son over a BWP Speckles Julie, which is Mr. Speckles over that Bessie that we saw earlier. Joe, do you know about this buck? Penios?
Yeah, I saw this buck and his flush mates, sisters and brothers, whenever Wes made him. So I saw him through his whole life until he went out to John Hicks, and then Pat got him. But this buck is about, genetically, it's the same cross as Smokey, and I think I'd put him up there in that tier 1 Blue Sun buck category as well. Everything that we've said about Smokey pretty much applies for Tar Heel. You've got the Mr. Speckles and Blue Sun combination, outstanding maternals there. The S77 on the bottom side. Cooper mentioned how much he liked Julie, but Julie, Jenny, and Buttercup are all the same cross, and Wes flushed them multiple times, and there's a reason he went back to Blue Sun over that same cross after he made Smokey, is because it worked out so well. And I've seen a lot of John's does that are out of this Tar Heel book, and I couldn't really add anything to them. They're about as nice as you could hope for. I know that Pat's done really well with Tar Heel so far, so he's one of the bucks on there that I'd put some money behind if I get the chance.
Cooper?
Yeah, when you look at a picture of this buck, he's one that really makes me do a double take. Genetically hard to beat. You heard what I said earlier about Julie. Um, I believe that that Tyler is using this buck some now too. So I'm really
Last year.
used him last year. I'm really excited to see the type of does that this buck produced with the type of does that Tyler has. Tyler's got a type of doe that I like. This buck phenotypically is the type that I like, as well as genetically. I'm excited about the future of this buck. I really am. I'm really looking forward to seeing kids out of him.
Kendall?
I seen this buck. He was here. We used him in a well, we didn't. Tyler used him in a flush, and Pat, which the flush was here at the house. He's a very well built buck. My type of buck, kind of short, stocky build, long body. Um, Tyler used him over his herd too. He had a buck that placed in West Virginia. I want to say it was the top 10. It might have been top 15, but I think he was a top 10 buck. And I had that buck in here for a while, and he was very wide in the front and all through his back, and wide set in the back end. So um, very interesting to see buck used now in 3 different places and getting similar results as far as body type out of kids. Says a lot for the buck's consistency, in my opinion.
All right.
I'd agree with that. Another thing, when you look at that picture of Tar Heel there, Kendall mentioned how much length of body Tar Heel's got. He don't look that long because he's proportional. He's got a lot of depth and a lot of width to go with him. One thing that Blue Sun does offer is a lot of length of body to them, and if you're not careful, you get some sway in that back where they're not so structurally sound and supported. But that buck's got a top line that's as straight as an arrow, and that's one thing I like to see. And it seems to has hit that phenotype, like we've talked about, follows through on all those different farms that have used him. That's been pretty impressive to me.
Lot 37, consigned by Patmos Island Kikos. This is a HKF Sonny Boy Son Sand Black Cadillac. 2 straws stored at Bonanza. Again, this is a Sonny Boy Son over Gal Sabrina, which is a Skies Blues copyright daughter over at Sazerac W&B Emily Doe. Kendall, can you start us out here?
Seen this buck. I believe he sold at AKI, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I've seen him in person. There, he's a pretty good buck. I don't know if you'll ever see Sonny Boy over Blues copyright anywhere else. I'm not for sure. I mean, I don't think the cross has been made. But what's interesting about that gal Sabrina is it goes back to CCR Sazerac. I know we're getting way back in the pedigree, but like I said, the last one we did, that Sazerac was used mostly over commercial and purebred stuff at Warren Barnes's when he used to have a partner, and so this, he had a Tasman Aristocrat daughter there at least, and got a few New Zealand's out of him. It's a different type of buck. You don't see many built this way. As far as he's pretty square made and long and dark colored. It's a pretty good genetic package.
Johnny and Judy Smitty bought that book.
Yep.
Joe?
No, I think he's down in my part of the world now, which isn't the easiest part of the world to live in. But if you look at that buck, he's carrying a good bit of flesh and cover over him. He ain't a skinny buck by no means. He's got a lot of shine and cover to him, and that goes for all the daughters I've seen out of him too. They've got a good bit of cover to them, and they seem to do good. Even coming from this part of the world, which ain't the easiest to come from. Kendall pointed to the bottom side down there, you got Sazerac over Tasman Aristocrat, and that's Tasman Aristocrat stuff has worked for me. I really like to see it on the maternal side, so I think it's a pretty good combination there.
Cooper?
When I look at this pedigree, the main thing that jumps out into me is the word maternal, top to bottom, absolutely stacked. And if the people listening get tired of us saying the word maternal, then you're probably better off raising Boer goats, because we are a maternal breed, and I don't see one single thing on here that tells me that this buck would produce a bad mama.
I agree. Lot 38. Lot 38 as I queue it up. I got a little behind. Sorry about that. Lot 38 is 2 straws of LFK Ramblings Blue F05. Again, this is a Blue Sun over a Samurai Jack daughter. Joe, you want to start us?
Sure. I've seen a bunch of daughters out of this bucket. JD's, he's got a lot of them from whenever he used them, and I've seen several from different farms across the country that are using them. And one thing that everybody that's got them says about them is they are the most parasite resistant stuff in their herd. And that's everybody that has them. And if everybody that has them says that, it must be pretty close to being true, if not very true. On the bottom side, you've got Samurai Jack, like you said, which is Cisco, Southwest Cisco, that we talked about Rusty going back to and how tough he was. And then you go down to the MJI doe. We talked a little bit about Jean's doe herd and how particular she was. I was at Jean's a couple times, and I've been to a lot of Kiko herds, and you couldn't put me in another Kiko herd and tell me it was as good or better than Jean's doe herd. It was just across the board, top to bottom. She was so particular about everything she did. She didn't make a bad goat, and I know that RAK Evelyn was one of her better does, and you don't have an opportunity to get much that goes back to U07 anymore. But I saw a lot of those U07 does, and they're some of my favorite does out there. So I mean, you've got Blue Sun, Southwest Cisco, or Evelyn, which is Blue Sun again, U07. It's about as good a maternal pedigree as you could want.
Cooper?
Extremely good buck. I saw him often, both in Oklahoma and in Kansas. I've seen a tremendous amount of kids out of this buck raised on many different farms and many different types of farms in the way the forage they have available and just the way that they raise the goats. But like Joe said, everybody loves these daughters out of Ramblin' Blues. And he also mentioned that U07 buck. That's the Hammers Mountain buck you see down there on the bottom side. And that buck, in my mind, carries a lot of weight. He's produced some excellent does. The Samurai Cinnamon doe you see here, she also produced another really nice buck, Samurai Jack. No, that's not right. Heck, I can't remember his name, but she's a well producing doe. Ramblin' Blues also made Woody G, which if you've been following the buck test stuff the last several years, you know Woody G's name. I think a lot of this buck is, and I've mentioned it before, look at his feet. You're not going to have feet problems out of him. Extremely tough. The daughters out of him are tremendous.
Kendall?
Joe's saying that there's a lot of Blue sons out there. To me, this is one of those probably top 5 Blue Sun buck. I mean, I always liked Rambling Blues. He's done extremely well for JD, and then his so that son to Curtis that did well. So you got a long line there of productivity, and I think this is one that JD wished he never sold and just kept him, I believe, because he was a nice buck.
Lot 39, consigned by Whispering Oaks Kiko's. Store's location is Bonanza and SEK. This is 2 straws of Walk Onyx 2.0. He is a Tay Onyx son over a generator daughter, and that generator daughter is generator over an Iron Horse daughter. So, Cooper, can you tell us a little bit about this buck?
Yeah, when you look at him, I just think we ought to throw some spaghetti out there with him because he's a little meatball. It is, to me, to get an Onyx son to look that way is not typical. And you look down there on the bottom side, it's generator over Iron Horse over Lighten. Really well bred top to bottom. It does say on here that he's no longer with us. So if you like what you see here, you better get the straws grabbed up because I don't think you're going to be able to have that opportunity for much longer.
Joe?
No, like everybody's been talking about all night long, I'm gonna go down to the maternal side on this buck, and that doe looks a little familiar because if you go to the very first lot here, those embryos are out of the doe that is the same cross as this buck here, Onyx over Generator Stacy, and if he liked that cross well enough to flush it, means it must be doing pretty good. I mentioned earlier I had some stuff out of Z08, and I saw Z08 in the later years. And like we talked about, without that longevity and that productivity for that amount of time, you might as well be raising a different breed because you can't have you ain't going to be very profitable without that.
Kendall?
Don't know what I can add that they haven't already mentioned, but it's going to be, Onyx is one of those bucks that everybody knows, and then you got Generator and Iron Horse to back him up. So plus Lightning on the bottom side. Very, very good looking pedigree.
Yes. Lot 40, consigned by USA Kiko's. This is 1 straw stored at Bonanza, 1 straw stored at Bonanza of AVG Marshall. AVG Marshall is out of TMO 22, which is a Hercules son over an Essex Zeus doe. Kendall, you familiar with this?
Yeah, I got to see TM22 at Ron's. Pretty nice. He was an old buck when I saw him, but he was a very, very well built buck. And saw Alice too. She was a very large doe. This Marshall is the litter mate to Martha, which was the dam to June. So that does anything for you. It's something I look at. I kind of like to trace back pedigrees, but I didn't get to see Marshall, but I got to see a lot of daughters and sons out of him back in the day. He was at Warren Barnes for a long time, and then I think he went to Gary Cunningham's for a while. Something I haven't seen in a long time, kid wise. So this would be something if you bought, you might want to use right away to get something on the ground because it's been a long time since I've seen anything.
Cooper?
I can't add anything to that.
Okay. Joe?
I guess one thing I can throw out there, you look at the Eastex Terry doe, you look at her sire, that's Sunboy 116, which is the full brother to Loverboy. something somebody might overlook there.
True. Thank you, Joe.
Now, Kendall mentioned the Tay M22, which is Marshall sire. I never saw him in person, but I have seen a picture of him. And in my opinion, he's one of the better built older bucks that's out there. Um, he was really solid, well built, fleshy buck, and I liked him quite a bit from what I've seen. And everything I've seen that goes back to Marshall is just what it tell. When I see Marshall, I think growth because everything that I've seen that goes back to it, it just carries a lot of growth with it, and it's without fail. Everything that I've seen that goes back to it, you can be guaranteed you're going to get a lot of growth out of it. It that Marshall's on the backside of SLS Fort, and he's been proven time and time again at buck test year in, year out. And I think Marshall had a decent amount to do with how good he did.
Thank you. Lot 41. Get down to short rows. Signed by M.R. Goats. This is 2 straws of Tay V108 stored at Bonanza. Not a lot. We talked about not a lot of Terminator 2 sons out there. This is a Terminator 2 over a Gold Mine 1 daughter. Joe, let's go.
I went to Jean's, like I said, and I saw a decent amount of these V108 does that she had made, and there wasn't nothing wrong with them. Like I said before, I don't think Jean had a bad goat because she was so particular, and she was using the semen. That's where all the semen came from. Jean had a bunch of it, and she had sold it. But she was using this semen, and I saw the stuff she had, and it was really nice. I saw some V108 sons this year that JD had made, and I really liked the way they were put together. And we talked about how Terminator's got that consistent phenotype where you got a lot of width and depth. It just goes with the territory when you got Terminator, and they carry that. One of JD's flush does, Sabrina, is out of V108. She is an impressive doe, to say the least. She's got that same consistent phenotype we talked about. I just really like the stuff that I've seen out of this. I think Kendall had stuff from some stuff that went back to Asmaveth, which was the only V108 buck that I know of that Jean registered. So I saw the does that she had, but she didn't register but one buck out of it, and I think he must have been pretty decent if she was going to register him.
Cooper?
The only experience I have with the V108 stuff is that doe of JD's that Joseph just mentioned, and a few kids that JD had when he used some of the semen. And it was all stuff that I like. Their build, and JD's not going to keep it around if it's not a good mama. So that's about all I can add there.
Kendall?
I just had that one doe that went back to the NJI buck out of that was the son of TV 108, but she's a good one. If you look at the pedigree, I mean it's old school genetics, top and bottom. So a lot of that stuff didn't stay around back then. If it wasn't worth a hoot, especially coming from the Taylors, they were kind of rough on the goats, and they had to be tough and hands off animals. So kind of old school stuff. Get back to the Terminator 2 parasite resistance. What I would use it for.
Lot 42. Lot 42 is consigned by Southwest Creek Farm. This is 2 straws stored at Bonanza. A note on the bottom in the write-up, if you are bidding on this and you're the winning buyer, you have the option to purchase additional straws at the same price as the winning bid. So if you like it, you can get more of it. I'm a little bit familiar with Way Beyond the Blue. Dad had bred to him, Darla to him, and I got a Raven buck that's up at Jennings Wickers right now. And then I was lucky enough on this pedigree to get GHK Widget from Mr. Cooper there right at the end of her life, and get a doe out of her that's on her second kidding and doing well. So Way Beyond the Blue, Blue Sun over Widget. He did sire number 11 overall buck and having number 1 REA in the 2022 West Virginia test. I don't think this buck has been tested a whole lot, so opportunity here to get some Blue Sun into your herd. Cooper?
Yeah, Way's a buck that I think a whole lot of. I've seen. I can't remember the guy who had him before the Marxists bought him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he used to post a whole lot of pictures of offspring from him, and I always thought, man, I'm sure glad I have this buck's mama. And then Andy talked me out of him, or out of her. But since the Marks have got him, I know that they've really liked him and the type of kids that he's producing for him. You see that he did well in the overall portion and number 1 in the REA in the 22 buck test. You look at him, I don't think there's anything to dislike about him at all. And they have thrown in there that sometimes he does throw some color and spots, which is never a bad thing. It really isn't.
Joe?
I've talked about Blue Sun and what I think about the sons out of him, and I think Way is, in my opinion, one of the better Blue Sun bucks out there. He's one of my favorites anyhow. I saw him years and years ago, and ever the Reeses first had him, and I talked to Sherry about him a while back, and she said that his kids were always kind of misleading because they never were the biggest things out there, but you throw them on a scale and they weigh as much as anything else that's out there. So they're going to be shorter, squatty type kids that carry a lot of flesh on them. I've seen the stuff that they made out of him. I've seen the stuff that Mr. Grandstaff made out of him, the Marks made out of him, and different people that used him. I've seen all over the country the stuff that's been made out of this buck, and I've liked it for the most part. I haven't seen anything out of him that I haven't liked. He is going to be, like I said, one of my favorite Blue Sun bucks, and he's been proven. I think that was the only time he's ever been tested, and he did really well. I believe he passed this last year, but he was 10 years old when he passed, and when you've got a buck that lasts that long, that tells me a lot, especially being moved all over the country like he was. He adapted wherever he was, and he lived a long, productive life. I think you'd be hard pressed to find another one like him.
Thank you for the name too. It was Seth Grindstaff. Yep. He's just down in Middle Tennessee here. Thank you. Kendall?
Yeah, I don't know what I could add that they haven't already said. Blue Sun over Iron Horse, and he's been tested towards the end of his life and done well. So I got a daughter of his out here in the herd now. This will be her first kidding, so kind of excited to see what happens there.
All right. Lot 43. Hold on, let me get queued up. You guys are so entertaining, I just get zoomed in on you sometimes and forget where I'm at. Lot 43. Nope. Yes, lot 43. I'm back. Consigned by Impact Kikos. This is 2 straws stored at Bonanza of Leg LEG Sesame Cyclops. Sesame Cyclops is a Sesame Sun over a KDJ Zeus's Nicole, which is out of Zeus's Sting Bear, and a Nip and Tuck Doe. I think the Dicks, Jimmy Dick and Brian, them got this Buck, they produced this buck in a flush, I think, from a doe from Mr. Jesse. I don't know a whole lot about him, if he was used much, but it is old school Sesame over a Helston and Sting son, a Zeus Bear over Razor River and Hitman, which is a Sports Cat son. Pretty loaded pedigree. Kendall, can you add anything?
Um, I know that my I was just informed not too long ago that that Hitman buck's still alive, so
Yep.
there's some longevity in this bloodline. I don't know a whole lot about this buck itself, but his pedigree, I mean, that's what a lot of the original imports were across with Sesame and Sting, or Sting over Sesame, or vice versa. So, um, should get you close to what some of the original imports were.
I think that's what Jimmy was looking for when he tried producing this. Joe?
Yeah, like Kendall said, you got the Sesame over Sting that's been so uh, sought after. And then, like Kendall said, he kind of stole my thunder. I was going to say that is that Raging River Hitman is one of my favorite, probably my favorite sports cat buck. From what I've seen out of him, like you said, he's 11 years old and still producing. And we talked about longevity and how important that is. And it just, anytime I see Hitman on the pedigree, I tend to look at it because I've seen a lot of stuff out of Raging River Hitman. He's been around a long time, and they've all been really similar. And you talked about when you hear cookie cutter, you kind of take notice of it, and I do too, because it's not very often that you see a buck producing for 11 years. It's going to make kids that look the same year in and year out, and that's kind of what stands out to me on this pedigree. Is I really like whenever I see Hitman on the bottom side.
Coop?
Loaded pedigree. And ever since that, I also learned that that Hitman buck was alive. I've been doing some research on him, and like these guys have said, he's a buck you ought to pay attention to. So it's cool to see him on the bottom side there.
Yeah, I'm the same. If you want to hear a common thread in here, I found out he was alive and I checked on getting semen out of him. They just tried again a couple 3 weeks ago and didn't get him collected. So what's out there on him will be what's out there on Hitman. And if you're a buck and live that long, and bucks live generally a hard life, that says a heck of a lot, especially with you producing consistent stuff. And this buck here that's up for offer in lot 43 goes back to Hitman. So I think a good opportunity here to try something for you. Lot 44, consigned by B-Bar W. Kikos. This is 6 straws again, stored at SEK. This is BWP Super Sport Jitterbug. Joe?
Well, we talked about Super Sport earlier in the year, or earlier in the night, and how consistent his offspring was. And if you look at this picture and then put it right up to Super Sport, you're going to see how similar in type they are. Jitterbug is probably my favorite of the Super Sport bucks that West made. He went to, I believe he went to PJ Murphy for his first kidding season, and then he came back to Wes's, and then went to Mike Hogan's. And we talked about how rough Mike Hogan is on his stuff, and he lived there and did just fine. And then from there, he went to South Texas, right on the coast, and lived there for a few years, and then went to South Mississippi. So everywhere this buck went, he wasn't pampered, and he had a pretty rough life, and he lived a long life. I believe he was 8 or 9 years old last time I knew, and he was still breeding. And everything I've seen out of Jitterbug has been really similar in type to what we talked about from Super Sport. One of the sires that I used last couple of years is out of a jitterbug doe, and then I've got several Royal Glendows that go back to jitterbug on the bottom side. So I'm very familiar with this jitterbug genetics. I've got some jitterbug in my tank because I'm going to use it. I really think a lot of jitterbug. If you go down to his bottom side, some people might overlook it, but that TNB number 61, that's the same cross as TNB White Knight, who was the sire of Webb Riptide, and Webb Riptide was the number 2 buck in Maryland. So, I mean, Jitterbug proved he was parasite resistant by where he lived and how long he lived. But I think you've got that parasite resistance coming through on the bottom side that's been proven on test. And I just really like this stuff, and I'm going to be using some of his semen here coming up shortly. If you're wanting Super Sport genetics without having to pay that price tag that comes with Super Sport semen, I sure would look at Jitterbug because I think he's every bit as good.
Cooper?
I can't add a better history than what Joe just gave us all. I'm really happy we were able to have him on tonight's deal because he's got more dadgum Kiko knowledge wrapped up in that head of his than just about everybody else put together. I will say that Jitterbug is on my short list of stuff to bid on in this sale. I like everything I've learned about him, and just about everything I've learned about him comes from Joe. So,
Good deal. I don't think it's all on his head. His arms look pretty big. He might have some of it in his arms too. Kendall, I had to add a little light there. Go ahead, Kendall. You got anything? Joe did a good job.
So before Kendall goes, I'm going to mention something else. Kendall had a jitterbug doe, well, several jitterbug does, but he had a jitterbug doe that I liked for a lot of years. I tried to buy from him a couple times, but I bought a son of hers, and now I have a herd sire waiting back in the wings. It goes back to jitterbug again. So if that tells you how much I like it.
Good deal. Kendall?
Yeah, Dana bought 6 jitterbug daughters. I think it might have been the first Kansas sale. And, you know, when you buy a group like that, there's always going to be a few that don't make the cut. But I kept 4 going out of those 6 for a long time. And then the last 2 I just lost last year. So they were 8 years old, I think, something like that. So, pretty good does. I kept daughters out of those. So I still got that bloodline in the herd and 3 or 4 different does now. So I kind of, you know, I'm pretty high on the jitterbug line.
Awesome. Lot 45. Lot 45 is consigned by Cowboy Kikos. This is 2 straws of MTF Smoke and Show WV21. These are stored in Cooper's personal tank, and he's close enough to Bonanza that he can drop them off there if that's where you want them dropped off at. I'm just going to add an analogy on this pedigree. It's like a football game to me. It's like you tell the defense you're going to run it right up the middle because you know that you can't stop them, because this pedigree here was made to perform. I mean, you got Blue Sun Smoky, which we talked about earlier in the catalog review, and then you got Copyright Tough over that Keepers 365 girl. It was made to do it. Tell us about Cooper.
Joe is a buck that I don't know why JD agreed to sell him to me, but I'm sure glad that he did. I liked him when he came off the test. Extremely aggressive breeder. I remember JD sending me a video of him, and he looked like a high school boy that had been turned loose in the girls' locker room. Joe is a buck that, I'll be honest, I don't like looking at him. I think he's ugly. And it's been hard for me to keep him. But I've kept him because of what he produces. He has the doe kids, and now I've got, I think, 2 years worth of does that are in production out of him are I can't ask for a better built doe kid. I know that Netter has seen kids out of him on my place. There, if a goat can be beautiful, then Smoking Joe can make you a beautiful goat. Um, and the reason that I wanted this buck is just because of the bottom side of this pedigree here. Not taking a single thing away from Smokey, but I'm really excited about getting. I'd like to have 50 or 60 Smoking Joe does out there in my herd, and I'm working on it. I don't sell very many of them because I'm trying to build my own herd out of them. And between Spartacus and Smoking Joe and crossing those back and forth, I'm excited about the future of my doe herd. And Smoking Joe's dang sure the one that's really pushing it for me. The semen's really high quality, 75% motility, normal morphology you get 90%. I have no reserve on these straws because I want somebody to buy them and I want you to use them. I want to see what he can do elsewhere. And if you like it, I'll sell you some more.
Good deal. Joe, I know you're familiar with Colton and crew. What can you tell us
Yeah,
about the
no,
buck?
I had his damn 914 at my house for a season or two. Colton let me hold on to her for a little while, and I have her twin sister at my place right now. We flushed her. I've got, let's see, I think I've got three of her daughters in my herd, and we just flushed her to Mr. Speckles this last year, and we implanted a bunch of embryos on her. If that tells you how much I like her. Um, but I saw Smoking Joe when he was a kid. From the time he landed on the ground as a sopping wet kid, I seen him. I was there when he was born, and that sucker was impressive. You can see that front end in that picture right there. That's what he looked like when he was first born. He was a standout from day one on his mom, and we've talked all night long about the how well I like the maternal genetics in this buck. And like Cooper said, I was there at his house and I saw a bunch of his daughters, and they're everything that I would want in a Kiko doe. They've got the uh, body type that I like. They've got the feminine head. They've got the fleshing ability on low quality pasture. Just everything's there that I would want in a Kiko goat, and I think you'd be uh, you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you overlooked him.
Kendall?
Only thing I heard was Cooper thinks he's ugly and Joe thinks he's beautiful. So I don't know about him, but
I didn't
but
say he's beautiful now. I said he was a kid when I.
uh,
He's kind of
I
like
don't know
you,
a whole lot
Kendall.
about it.
It's hard to look beautiful when you go to West Virginia and then to Cooper Sherrill's buck pasture. There's a good bit of difference there.
But these two know the buck way better than I do. There's not much I could add to it. Just solid, look like a solid buck to me.
Yep. Yeah, and again, that's it to me. Just it was made for. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to run it up the middle, and you can't stop it. I think be a good chance here, and I think it's a great thing that Cooper wants to get him out there to impact the Kiko herd. I take an opportunity. I may be striking that in the liquor too. Lot 46. 46 is consigned by BlackRock Kikos. One straw of GFI Rollings Meadow 81, known as Mr. Speckles. We saw him in a lot of pedigrees here. West Penio used him heavy. Come from Nancy's farm. You got Dottie, which is a lover boy daughter, over Carp Diem. Joe, tell us about it.
Well, said it before. He's one of the bucks that made West Penio West Penio's herd what West Penio's herd is. Um, he couldn't have done it without Mr. Speckles. Mr. Speckles was kind of Wes's buddy. But that buck did more for the performance part of the breed than just about any of them out there. He dominated Oklahoma test on growth. He even had some bucks do well on parasite resistance there. He had sons in western Illinois that were topping the test on the feedlot there. He had top 10 buck in West Virginia or Western Maryland. So across the board, wherever he went, he did well. I think he's got, like I said, the performance is there. But for me, what rings true more than anything is the maternals in this buck. He's a Tasman Aristocrat bred buck that I've talked about how much I like that on my maternal side. I've seen a lot of Mr. Speckles' daughters in the years that I've been doing this, and they're some of my favorite built does and some of the most productive does out there that I've seen. There aren't many of these straws left. There's a couple people that got them, and they're not wanting to put them out there. Wes has no more. Wes is not making any more kids out of him. I just spent 2 straws on Mr. Speckles this year, and I'm super excited to see how those kids turn out. But back when the AKGA used to do what did they call it? Maiden futurity doe. Whenever they had their sale, they would have I think Richard Browning, what's it, Rubicon Astor, and who was the other person, Kendall? There was 3 of them. Who was the other person?
I don't remember the third one.
Okay. Well, I was thinking there was 3 of them, but anyhow, whenever that they'd have them go around and pick out the best maiden does and in the sale, and every year that Mr. Speckles does were in that sale, they were either 1, 2, or 3 on maiden futurity doe. They're just some of the best maternal does out there, in my opinion. And in their opinion, Rubicon Astor and Richard Browning. So it's hard to beat that.
Cooper?
Mr. Speckles is an absolute legend in the breed. Wes did a heck of a job putting the right does with him, and I don't know that was that hard to do. I think he's a buck that crossed well over a lot of different things. I think he gets a lot of the growth that you see out of that lover boy into things, and the excellent maternal as well. But you're getting a lot of that maternal ability out of his top side as well. I mean, it's aristocrat over keeper, and you can have a pretty black doe come through a sale ring that's covered in spots, and it sells for a lot more than it's worth. So spots on him sure don't hurt anything. He's one of my favorites in the breed.
Kendall?
Well, Tasman Aristocrat on top sides. I mean, that's one of my favorite lines besides, the Hammer line and Pango. So this is probably, it's pretty close. And going by what, all he's done in buck testing, he's like Cooper said, he's a legend. So there's not a whole lot of these straws. I don't think there ever was a whole lot in the beginning anyway of them. So there's a lot less now because people's been using them up.
I've got a Speckles daughter that I bought from Wes out in Heartland sale. Tried to do something really special with her this year and don't look like she caught.
She had a son that did well for you on Mississippi, didn't she, Andy?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Remember correctly?
Yep, too.
That's what I thought.
Right, yep.
So I think sons or daughters, whatever you're using out of Mr. Speckles, it usually performs. It's just, you can't go wrong with it.
Lot 47. Lot 47 is consigned by Whispering Oak Kiko's. It's 2 straws stored at Bonanza of TMK Dale's Wonderman. Wonderman is a son of BBM Dale 1400, which is Southwest Cisco son. Bottom side is Tay Onyx over Miss Wonder. It's Terminator top and bottom. Terminator top and bottom with Goliath there in the middle. Kendall, have you seen? I'm sorry, Cooper. You seen any of this? Or Dennis is
Yeah, I've seen the buck, and I've seen a whole lot of daughters out of him. The daughters are very similar in type and kind, and they're almost all extremely flashy colored. I always liked looking at them when they would come through the sale ring there in Oklahoma. And I know you look at the pedigree there. I mean, that's maternals and parasite resistance. That's a Kiko for you, or at least it's a good Kiko for you. I know that Wayne and Denny were really disappointed when they lost this buck so early, but they did push him hard early and sent a whole lot of really nice daughters through the sale rings across the country, and there's a bunch of them out there doing good things. He's a buck I think quite a bit about. I darn sure wouldn't be afraid to bid on it.
Kendall.
Yeah, this Miss Wonder doe on the bottom side there. I saw her in person. The McGill, she's a very feminine doe, long. And then I think you see that buck being picture of that buck. He's pretty long. So you get a double shot of Terminator. So it's not a bad thing. Pretty, like I said, he lost him young, so I don't think we've got to see the full impact he could have made, but hopefully through the semen we'll get a better glimpse of what he could have done.
Joe.
Yeah, like Kendall mentioned on the bottom side, and again, I'm gonna talk more about the bottom side than I did the top. But that Miss Wonder, I talked to Christian about her, and he said when he was at Nancy, she was just a standout, and he couldn't go home without taking her home with him, and that's why he had her. And I went to Nancy's, and if you haven't gone to Nancy's, you need to do yourself a favor and go down there, because there's just the history there, and that herd it's hard to beat that experience. It's a very worthwhile trip. I was there, and it's one of the nicer herds that's out there, and she don't run them. She don't pamper them very much. They're run fairly rough, and it's in my opinion, when I was there, may be a different story now, but when I was there, it was one of the most consistent herds that I'd been to, and I really liked the type and kind throughout the whole herd. And if Christian said that the Miss Wonder doe was a standout, then I think she must be a pretty good doe.
No, Nancy's is an experience. I've got a video. I'll ask her if I can post it. And it's a group of yearlings that are running through past from one paddock. It ain't really a paddock, but they were crossing the bridge and coming by me. And if you look at them, it's kind of awesome to see that top and that many of the same top and same cookie cutter across the board. She's definitely has the history and is a fun person to talk to.
And we talked about a couple different people and being really particular on what they want in their herd, and Nancy's definitely particular in what she wants, and she's been doing it a lot of years, and the fact that she's been particular has really shown through in her herd, and I don't think you can really get anywhere without being that particular and that driven, and she definitely is, and she's put together quite quite a herd of goats. And like I said, if that doe was a standout, then that means she must have been something.
Lot 47. Lot 47 is consigned by, wait, we just talked about 47. Let's go 48. Lot 48 is consigned by Danny Vaughn. This is 2 straws of Outlaws Guinness. They are stored at Bonanza, and when I flip this over here, you see a picture of the buck. But then when we look at the pedigree is going to look really familiar. GHK Outlaws Klondike B87. This is Outlaw over Klondike B87, which goes back to that TNT Cody. Cooper, you want to add anything?
Well, I can only assume that this has got to be one of the test winners, just looking at his birth date. I don't know that for sure. But even if he isn't, he's a littermate to one of them, I would almost guarantee you.
Yep.
We talked about the TNT Cody on the bottom side here and how nice of a buck that was. But what's real interesting to me is just that buck there in the picture. That's a nice looking rascal. Looks like he's probably a yearling there, holding really good flesh, and I don't see anything wrong with him. And you put this in your doe, I mean, you're putting in some of the most well-tested set of genetics that you can buy.
Kendall?
Yeah, it's probably one of the better built outlaw sons I've seen. As far as that picture looks, I mean, he don't look overly leggy or anything, and he's got a lot of flesh and body to him. So, very impressive outlaw son.
Joe?
I talked a good bit about that Y47 and how much I liked her earlier on. Just a reminder to everybody that I like that stuff pretty well, and it's done well for me. The longevity's for sure there, and Cooper kind of pointed it out in another picture earlier on. But look where that buck's standing, and look how he looks in that environment. He ain't got nothing but dog fennel and wiregrass, and he's looking he's looking pretty darn good for that environment. And it's hard to look that good eating that kind of groceries. And like Kendall said, he's probably, if not the best, one of the best built outlaw sons that I've seen.
Thank you. Lot 49. Lot 49 is consigned by Sterling V Ranch. Storage location is Bonanza and Flying Cow. This is 2 straws, and they're willing to share shipping to SEK. This buck is a Rolling Meadows 81 Mr. Speckles buck out of a Blue Sun 706 doe, one of their foundation does that they've had for quite a while. Obviously, they've done some repro work on that to produce it, and obviously proud of what it's doing in their herd and offering up 2 straws here. Cooper?
Yeah, when you look at the pedigree here, I mean, we just spent a lot of time talking about Mr. Speckles, and then we spent a whole lot of time talking about Blue Sun, and you've heard me talk about Julie. And Julie is Mr. Speckles' daughter. It's kind of a bulletproof pedigree, and as far as I'm concerned. The 706 doe, this buck's dam. I've talked to Eric and Amy about her quite a bit, and I know just how much they like her. And again, if you're gonna go through all the expense and work of doing advanced repro work, well, you're probably going to do it with a doe you really like. And I know that Mr. Speckles semen they put in her wasn't cheap. So just again, another really neat opportunity that Sterling V has given us all to take some of these hard to get genetics and put them out there for us. You read her write up, you read just how tough this buck has been on their farm. They're not easy on their goats. They raise them like true livestock. They've got to be able to make it on their own. I mean, they give them the nutrition that they need to get by. But I have goats from Eric and Amy One of them is very close to being my top doe in the herd. I wouldn't be scared to buy anything that they deem worthy of putting out in the world.
Thank you. Kendall?
Yeah, that's a awesome pedigree on this buck. You know, like Cooper was saying, we've talked about every buck in the pedigree on this
Yep.
cross. So goes to show that Amy and Eric's they've studied what people's after, and they've put it in a quality doe. It seems like.
Joe? 706?
That 706, she was I believe she was the highest selling doe at the first Heartland sale, 2018. She's the same cross as that Blues Tar Heel buck that we talked about earlier, year before him, but the same embryos. I talked about how much I liked that buck. 706 was just a really nice doe. Obviously, Eric and Amy thought so, and so did several other people that day. Carried a lot of flesh on her, feminine type with a lot of body capacity, everything that you want in a production doe, and she's turned out to be that. And I definitely wouldn't be afraid to use this buck here. He's got all the right pieces for sure.
Okay, I want to add something to this. I feel like I need to say it. I don't think Cooper's preached enough tonight, so I'm going to step up and preach a little bit. When buyers are bidding on this stuff, if you knew the cost behind of creating this buck, when you go to bidding on the semen, you really have got to think about that and what it would cost you to make that across the board every lot in the sale. I mean, when you see these Rolling Meadows Speckles, Rolling Meadows 81, one straw sale, and then you go and try to buy that Blue Sun, which she was the high seller, then you add your repro work, you're talking about thousands of dollars. Am I wrong?
Mhm.
I mean, it's thousands of dollars. I mean, and I just keep that in mind when you're bidding on this stuff. I mean, you might not have seen a lot out of this buck yet, but it costs a lot to make him, and with that cost, you know that they're going to spend their money wisely. I don't think it's going to be something that they're going to lightly take. They're trying to make something better and offer that to the industry. So just when you bid on any of these lots, keep that in mind, what the cost was to create some of this awesome stuff that's being offered. So with that little sermon, I'll go on to lot 50. Lot 50 is consigned by M.R. Goats. This is 2 straws of PJM carbon copy. This is a Skies Blues copyright Sun out of GIN Kiwi King doe. And I'll cue it up, and Kendall, you start us.
This is one of the few sons out of copyright that's PJ registered. I don't know exactly how many he's registered, but I know it's probably not in the double digits. It's probably 5, less than 5. So he thought enough for this buck to register him, and that's about all I need to know about the buck. But he's even better than that, because if you go to the bottom side, I mean, he's got a dose. The dam side on this is pretty stacked genetics. As far as you got a lot of the gin stuff, and it's got some TNT Cody and some Dale, and a lot of aristocrat blood in it. So, you can't see on that. Some of those gin genetics it's aristocrat over Tasman aristocrat, or Tasman aristocrat over a Tasman aristocrat daughter. So it's way back in the pedigree, but it's line bred to the point that it still makes a pretty good impact on the pedigree.
Joe?
Yeah, no, Kendall nailed it. PJ didn't register many bucks at a copyright. He thought he made better does. So if he was good enough to be registered, he had to be a pretty nice buck. And then, like you said, on the bottom side, that '09 doe. Look up a picture of her. She's about as nice a doe as you could make. I think structurally, phenotypically, all the way through. That's what I want in a Kiko doe. Carried the flesh with her. I believe she may have been on the cover of the Goat Rancher at one point because she was a really nice doe. But then, like Kendall said, that V3, there's several of those does, V2, V3, V4. They produce some really nice stuff. Same cross, I believe. V3 is the same cross as a doe that's on the bottom side of Resistol, TNB or TBR Resistol. Just some great maternals here, in my opinion.
Cooper?
Yeah, I just want to hit on the thought process of somebody that doesn't register a whole lot of bucks out of buck XYZ. That doesn't mean that he was a sorry buck at all. What that tells me is one of about three things. One, that person is not trying to just be a buck peddler. He wants to register and offer only the best of the best. There's a whole lot of mediocre bucks that get offered up for sale. And when I run across a breeder that is so picky on what he will or she will register and offer to the public, that tells me what I need to know about that operation. So you got to preach, so I got the final preaching
You
because we're
did.
done.
Yeah, you did. Lot 50 and we're done. And with that, it's a wrap. I think from what I've heard here, a lot of maternal offerings, a lot of great bucks in this lineup, some unique offerings. Want to thank the crew here, Kendall, Cooper, and Joe. Outstanding the input you had. I mean, the first-hand knowledge of a lot of this stuff. If you're bidding on any of this stuff, what they told you, you can bank on. I'm going to go back to TFL Exceller and what Kendall said about that. I had asked Kendall about that buck on a private call, and he told me the same exact thing. And he's telling you that same exact thing. So these guys are straight shooters, and they're going to help you get your herd built. You just got to bid and buy and get it. Don't know how I'll repay them for spending 3 hours and 27 minutes and 13, 14 seconds. It's been a good one. Guys, I thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we thank you too because man, you got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes here to be able to put this together. I mean, everyone of us in the sale has something in the sale, so we appreciate everything you do to help out the Kiko industry and doing all these sales all over the country. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cooper. Thanks, guys. I'm gonna stop the stream. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, Andy.